just after lunch. How much of a chance do you think India have of winning the match from that position?
Having seen this team play over the past, I guess, couple of 2 to 3 years, in terms of how they approach the game, I would say more than a 50% chance.
Okay.
They have the ability to, when you expect them to be scoring big runs, somehow they go and collapse somewhere. But we've seen this in Australia more than once, that when pushed to with their backs to the wall, there is a huge amount of resilience in the team, and especially the batting. So I can't tell you what happens thereafter in terms of the bowling, whether India is going to be good enough to contain New Zealand thereafter. But I think, as far as the batting is concerned, you will not see a second innings collapse. That's my feeling.
Okay. Just news on session times, by the way. They are aiming to get 91 overs in today. Intervals will shift back by an hour. Lunch at 1:30 p.m, tea at 4:10 p.m, play continuing till 7 p.m, all of those times, UK times.
So Hendo will be busy trying to work out when we all have to be on air over the next.
I think it might be easier if we just shift everyone to a decent.
Let's let the great rotor wrangler wrangle the rotors, and we'll go accordingly.
Yeah. Just let us know what to do.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Yes, play. Good news. Play will start in 12 minutes UK time, and we'll have a 2-hour first session, and then a 2-hour second session, and then a very long last session, theoretically. Why don't we take the time to jingle up the New Zealand number 3 and number 4 who'll be starting us off. First, the Kiwi captain.
The Kiwi told me long ago, there's no one better than Marty Crow. I know he's really great, but tell me, I want to know, have you ever seen Kane laying strokes every which way?
And the New Zealand number 4, their leading run scorer in Test cricket.
Wouldn't it be good to be Ross Taylor, even with his old and aching boat? Wouldn't it be good to be Ross Taylor to anyone?
Who do we think India are going to start with the ball, Jack? I heard Sunil Gavaskar saying that he would want to see, for large parts of the day, spin from one end and seam from the other. Would you start with that, or would you go with 2 seamers to start with?
I would 100% go with 2 seamers to start with. I think the spin idea is a little bit avant-garde. Sorry, I've got an alarm going off in the background, Knuckle. Can you talk for like 10 seconds while I turn it off?
Sure. Aninda has disappeared to do something, and Jack is trying to make sure that his house doesn't explode, apparently. The spin idea of being avant-garde is something I do want to talk about with Jack when he does come back. Should just say, if you're just joining us here on Guerrilla Cricket, we do have some good news. Play will start at 11:30 a.m. UK time, so in 10 minutes time. 91 overs maximum today. Lunch at 1:30 p.m, tea at 4:10 p.m. Play can continue until 7 p.m. UK time. Jack, now that you've made sure that nothing dramatic is happening to your house, we'll come back to the idea of the spin being avant-garde. So 2 seamers. You're starting with Ishant and Bumrah?
You know what I thought, and this might be slightly controversial.
Your phone is giving us some feedback.
That's going over there then. I thought that Mohammad Shami was the pick of the Indian bowlers, and I think he was quite unlucky not to have done any damage to the top order of the New Zealand lineup. So I would go with him as one of the opening pair. With him, and I agree, Shami was brilliant on the other day, on Sunday. And Ishant. Shami and Ishant. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. And that's not because I don't think Bumrah is good, because I obviously do. I just think in these conditions, the relative improvement you'll see from Mohammad Shami and Nishant Sharma over, their expectations in a neutral venue is probably more significant than you'd see for Bumrah. And
slight counterpoint.
If it doesn't work, you have Bumrah to come back later.
Well, indeed, and then Jadeja and Ashwin as well. I think Ashwin bowled really well in conditions that you wouldn't necessarily expect a finger spinner to bowl well in. More than kept it tight. I think he was genuinely threatening at points on Sunday. One counterpoint to that is Test cricket doesn't work on matchups quite the same way as limited overs cricket does, but Bumrah has a much better record bowling to right-handers than he does left-handers, Ishant the other way round. Does that factor into your thinking with Williamson and Taylor at the crease?
It is a reasonable point to make. Maybe, I think between the three of them, in the conditions this cricket's going to be played in, I'm not really sure there's a bad decision you can make. There's not an obviously disastrous. I mean, nobody in the world is going to say, "Oh no, they're opening the day with Jasprit Bumrah."
No,
there is a big caveat.
Apart from some mad Indian fans who've been having a go at him for not taking any wickets. I thought he bowled really well at Williamson on Sunday. To be honest, he was India bowled two straight maidens before the wicket of Devon Conway last night. And I mean because it's been so long since that Conway getting out, 2 balls before the close of play on Sunday could actually turn out to be quite a big breakthrough and a big turning point potentially in this game.
Oh, 100%, yeah. I mean, I actually think, just to go back to that bowling point, if you don't mind, I think it's how India bowl that will be interesting here rather than who they bowl. Because they have 2 options, don't they? And I think Ben Jones in his book and in a CricViz article yesterday was quite eloquent in the explanation about the 2 choices that India will have. Basically, they can choose to pitch it up, take more risk in terms of it being easier to score runs, but effectively buy more tickets to the wicket lottery. So be more expensive but have a higher strike rate. There's a pretty high risk reward there. Or continue with what they were doing, which is slightly back of a length, quite different to score, a better overall average, but unlikely to force the game in any way. And I think that's what I'm sort of looking out for in the next 2 hours, is whether India go for the fuller lengths, and it worked for Kyle Jamieson, and he blew through the sort of middle order of the Indian team, or whether they stick with their game plan, which I think they were probably a little bit unlucky with over the sort of course of Sunday evening. But overall, I guess what I'm saying there, the game will develop slower, but you'd expect the average to be lower. Does that make sense, Nakul?
Yeah, it does. I read those pieces as well. Everyone always says, when the ball's passing the edge and when you don't take wickets early, pitch it up, but it's not quite as simple as that. Or if it is, it's a very minor adjustment. They were doing some stats on the host broadcast this morning, and Mohammad Shami's length is 25 centimetres shorter than the average length for a seamers in England. We're not talking, trying to bowl big swinging half volleys as you might expect. I mean, Aninder, it strikes me that I think India were unlucky on Sunday, but that's not to say that New Zealand were lucky in I think what we saw is that India bowled really well and New Zealand batted really well at the same time.
This is true. I mean, there's no doubt about the fact that the openers played really well. They knew that India's strength was seam rather than swing, and they were well prepared for it. So I think you have to give it to them in how they tackled it. India was unlucky, I think, as well in not inducing a few edges. But it's an interesting one, Jack. That what do they do? And I would think that sitting where they are now, they would go on the attack rather than try to continue doing exactly what they're doing, unless they're convinced that having got rid of the openers, they have much more of a chance of getting their original plan to succeed with the rest of the batsmen, which also might be the case.
It's interesting you note the seam and swing thing. That might play into the changes of approach. We saw India taking the Virat Kohli 2018 template, batting outside of the crease to combat the swing. with because you try and get to the ball before it's done most of its swinging, and you take that advantage, or you reduce the advantage that the swinging ball has over you. Actually, when the ball is seaming, you're almost better off, perhaps, staying deeper in the crease, as New Zealand did, or kind of playing from the crease a bit more, playing it really late, which is what Latham and Conway and Williamson did.
Yeah, I think that's probably quite a good observation, to be honest, Knackle, and I always think that kind of explains why Steve Smith's so good in England, because he plays the ball later than anyone else in the world, and it gives him a lot more time to basically adjust to deviation off the pitch. I think the batters are coming out, aren't they, as we discussed.
They are indeed.
And it's not a replay.
They are indeed. We've already jingled up Ross Taylor and Kane Williamson. Kane Williamson will be facing on 12 off 37. Ross Taylor will be at the non-strikers end will be at the non-strikers end on naught. It remains to be seen as to who starts off for India. Can't see anyone notably has taken their cap off yet. No, it will be this man yet to take a wicket.
And now then, Marty Bumrah, oh, you're bowling again, aren't you? Oh, I thought as much.
It will be Jasprit Bumrah starting off proceedings this morning. 11 overs, 3 maidens, none for 34. Bowled very well at Kane Williamson in particular. I think actually we are going to have a change. We're going to go with the 11:30 rotor. What I might do is, just because we're slightly all over the place, I think I might just do this one over, and then Jack and I'll get out of the way and hand over to Tony and Fred for the first half an hour, and then we just kind of go as is from there.
So we're going back to the original half an hour, first original half an hour.
We're going with the rotor as is from 11:30. So the next, we'll do this just
Only
one
Fred
over.
and you and Indo.
We'll just do this one over, just so we doesn't go completely crazy, and then we'll hand over to Tony and Fred and Indo.
Okay.
Cool.
Ross Taylor, nervy starter, as always. Fine player, though he is. 7,500 runs at 45 doesn't come cheap.
It's one hell of a batsman.
Has been one hell of a player. Richard Kettleborough just waiting until the clock ticks over to 11:30. It is 11:29 and some seconds. Michael Goff, the standing umpire at the other end, a fine umpire.
I don't know why, but it's Richard Illingworth, and I keep calling him Kettleborough as well.
Oh yeah, the interchangeable Richard Illingworth. Sorry, yes, the interchangeable Richards. I've had this issue before.
Me too.
We've got 3 slips and a gully, backward point, mid off, almost short extra cover, mid on quite straight, mid wicket and a long leg. So fairly standard, aggressive field as Jasprit Bumrah opens up proceedings. Down goes the left arm of Michael Goff. In comes Jasprit Bumrah, right arm over the wicket for the start of day 5 that is actually sort of day 3 as it comes in to Kane Williamson. This is back of a length and rising through to Rishabh Pant, who takes at solar plexus height, and there is no run. A little bit of swing. Bit of a range finder from Bumrah. Camera operators pan to Ishant Sharma, thinking that he's going to be starting off from the other end. So it'll be the 2 fielders that we had starting off, 2 bowlers that we had finishing off on Sunday. Bumrah is bowling from the pavilion end. He's swapped ends a couple of times, just trying to find his best angle of attack. Down go the 3 slips on the gully. In scuttles Bumrah. Rising delivery outside off stump, fended elegantly by Williamson to Jadeja at backward point. There is no run.
I think.
So did we move forward? Sorry, did we move forward in naming the ends after Gorilla Fans?
we haven't got the sales pitch up right. Should just tell you, by the way, the GPL is open and the starts at 70 quid, which is a very nice little earner for you for a £1 stake. We see Shubman Gill in the field wearing a very startlingly new looking India cap. It's a completely different colour to everyone else's as Bumrah comes in, bowling from mid-crease. Again, a little bit too wide. Williamson leaves alone through to Rishabh Pant. There is no run.
I think New Zealand will want, or India rather, will want Taylor on strike as much as possible over the first half an hour today. As Nakul was saying, he is a nervy starter, and I think that's statistically backed up as well. I think he's actually one of the worst batters in his first 30 balls in the world, and then after that becomes, Ross Taylor.
Yeah, and that's got worse in his as his career's gone on, which is understandable. He's 37 years old. He's been playing international cricket for a very long time. Bumrah in, fourth ball of the over, does beat Williamson on the outside edge. Sort of played inside the line. It wasn't a huge play and miss or an error from Williamson, just playing the line, thinking it was going to come in. It just holds its line, but a better line of length from Bumrah. No run.
Yep. He has to get it closer to the stumps.
Maybe play around with his angle on the crease, go a little bit wider on the crease to angle the ball into Williamson. He can move the ball away from the right-hander.
Yeah.
I think you have to not have to be too inventive on a pitch that's giving you a certain amount of seam movement, but all of these things can help. But Bumrah in, good delivery, a little bit of tail into the right-hander from Bumrah in the air. Williamson blocks to cover. There is no run. Slightly better in this over as he's gone on. I suppose, in a way. That was a no ball from Jasprit Bumrah. His second, I think, that he's bowled in this Test match.
Over the line!
Huh? I'm sorry, Smokey. You were over the line. That's a foul.
Does bowl no balls occasionally, does Bumrah, as he strives for every extra advantage. It's a tight no ball, but it is a no ball. Those all called by the TV umpire, who is Richard Kettleborough, not Illingworth. So Bumrah will bowl the penultimate ball of the over again. It's a full delivery. Pushed slightly aerially by Williamson. Bounced very long way short of Jadeja, but it wasn't entirely controlled from Williamson. A little bit fuller from Bumrah. It's got better as this over has gone on. One more ball and then we'll hand over to the team who are meant to be doing this, but it all got a little bit scrambled, which will be Tony Bishop, not Fred Titmus, and Aninder Dutta. Be joined later today, in fact probably in about an hour or so by Gary Naylor, half an hour or so by Gary Naylor, and with Hendo as well. That's your crew. Last ball of the first over of the day as Bumrah is in, edged to play with soft hands by Williamson, short of the man in the slip cordon, Virat Kohli at third slip. A no ball, the only runs off Bumrah's first over. New Zealand 102 for true, trail by 115. Jack and I will make way for Tony and not Fred.
Thank you very much, Nakul. Hello to not Fred. I can see you there. Can I hear you? That's going to be the key thing.
Good morning, Tony.
Good morning. Good morning.
Glad to be making my debut in this Test match on day 5 with about 200 overs to go. Doesn't happen very often.
Well, I was following, and obviously
welcome, Fred.
Hello, Anindo. Nice to see you.
Distinctive chuckle of Anindo Dutta, all the way from probably sunny Singapore, not worrying about the weather in quite the same way as we are in Southampton.
It's late evening, otherwise it would be sunny.
I think it has been known to rain in Singapore as well, Tony.
Believe me, I have been there when it has.
4 times a day.
It's going to be Ishant Sharma who continues, 102 for 2, which of course is where proceedings left off. And before Nakul takes off, like a helicopter with a waving his arms, we'll jingle up Ishant Sharma.
Ishant Sharma's gonna get you, gonna look you right in the face. Better get yourself together, darling. Learn how to play pace. How in the world you gonna see netting against trundlers like me? Who in the hell do you think you are? A superstar? Well, right you are.
Going to be bowling to Ross Taylor, yet to get off the marks. Only face 2. He has 3 slips. It's down leg. Taylor has a little flick, and it's taken by Rishabh Pant, skipping away to his left. Yes, if you've been trying to follow the bouncing ball on this test, remember that day 1 became day 0. Day 2 was day 1. Day 3 was day 2. Day 4 was rained off, even though it was probably day 3, and so we're now in effectively day 5, which is effectively day 4 because of the extra day. Got all that? Nice and clear.
That should make Fred feel better that he's starting his commentary on day 4.
Yeah, I always like to turn up at the start of a test match.
As we wait for Ishant to come in, sort of the first, second and fourth slip really, and again he's erred off down leg, and Ross Taylor, not a man to hurry from the off, will let that through. So I mean, I guess Fred, an Indo actually, because Fred I think is our social guru today for now. Hard to see it being other than a draw, do you think, or would albeit a slightly contrived result actually likely to happen, do you think?
Well, we've been chatting about that on air for the past hour or so, and
I missed that.
And I think
I'll just hold that thought. Sorry, as Ishant is in, and again he's away onto leg, and this one Taylor looks to prod towards square leg and doesn't really get anything on it, and there is no run. You were saying?
It seems to be a double-edged sword in a way. Even if India manages to get the Kiwis out fairly quickly, because then are they able to withstand the Kiwi attack and put on sufficient runs to get a win or save the match? So it's I think 2 days is enough on this pitch, given the 2 bowling attacks for a result.
Yeah, I guess that comes down to aspiration as well. We'll just hold that thought as Ishant is in. Taylor a little bit squared up, a little bit ugly, but effective, pushing this to on, and there is no run. 1 for 19 for Sharma. I mean, a result can always be contrived, declarations and what have you, but would either country be happy to say we shared the inaugural WTC championship, or will they be really, win or lose, want to be a definitive result? So I think you've talked about what. Yeah,
they wouldn't want to lose trying to get a contrived win.
Oh, yeah, that's obviously true. As this one is again pushed to square leg by Taylor, as again Ishant sort of slightly pulls it away towards the leg side. Is he just not quite found his range yet, an Indo, or is this a deliberate ploy?
It's a deliberate ploy. I think it's a deliberate ploy because Taylor's obviously a bit nervy at the moment, so maybe something down the leg to get a touch.
It could be. Well, there's 1 ball left of this Ishant Sharma over, who hasn't been bowling badly. You've heard it officially from the Seer of Singapore. It's a deliberate ploy to try and get it to flick or turn one to that onside field. In comes Sharma. Nicely played this time by Taylor. Pushed back towards the bowler. There's no run, and it's a chance for us to hear your social messages via the conduit that is not Fred Titmus.
Yes, I'm doing it in the medium of modern dance and mime. Angelic Scooters says, evening Guerrilla Cricket, I find myself living for a few days on my local campus as my house gets some repairs after flooding at Christmas. So no pictures for me. It's delightful to have you as my designated eyes for this auspicious occasion as we fight against that good draw. We've got a few people joined us on YouTube, a few thanking the Lord that the sound has been restored, which I understand was a problem earlier. Joshua Brown says, this final has been cheapened by the fact that the title would be shared. Absolutely terrible idea. They should play full 5 days worth of play. This will go down as a monumental mistake by the ICC.
Yeah, I think there's a few people share that opinion. Jasprit Bumrah will continue. He's bowling to Kane Williamson, and Williamson, big high lift of his bat to watch that through under his eye line, and there's no run. I did see Mark Steele contend that seeing as we're having a World Cup in the middle of the desert somewhere, and that this is being played in June.
Well, Jack Hope suggested Mongolia.
Yeah, well, no, his suggestion was if you apply the same logic, we would have the bobsleigh championship held in Norfolk and probably the Olympic pole vaulting in a multi-storey car park. But there we go, as this one is flicked away to leg by Kane Williamson. Again, there is no run. No runs yet this morning.
Yeah, there was one.
One run, actually.
Oh, was there?
No ball.
Yeah.
The no ball, I beg your pardon.
Andrew Cook says, so are the clouds of Mordorian proportions today?
They're certainly dark and gloomy.
Yeah, on the question of the rain, which I imagine has been discussed over the last few years, last few days at Guerrilla Cricket. It seems
sure
like years when some people have been on. I'm sure. I'll continue after this ball.
Yeah, Jasprit Bumrah is going to hop and skip his way into bowl to Kane Williamson, who again is happy to let that through to Rishabh Pant, and there's no run. Sorry, Fred.
The whole competition has obviously been massively disrupted by the pandemic, which is nothing that anybody could have done anything about. And when the wheels stopped turning, these two teams were the top two, albeit there wasn't a full programme of games. New Zealand particularly didn't play many away games, which is where it's difficult to pick up points. But the fact is, it's a little bit of a even before the pandemic, it's a little bit of a feeler for a new competition. I'll continue after this first ball.
Yeah,
sorry.
Bumrah is going to continue bowling from that Ramsgrove Pavilion end, and up onto his toes goes Kane Williamson, but steers it straight to point, and there's no run.
And then after all that, all that we've gone through over the last 18 months in the world in general, to have this game disrupted by the weather is very disappointing. But I'm looking for a silver lining to that. I did suggest that perhaps it may make the ICC think that a 3-match test series to decide the winner makes more sense for the next competition. And my hope would be that you had 3-match semi-finals as well. Possibly all in the same place. Wouldn't that be good over a 7-week period?
Somewhere that doesn't rain quite so much as this one is, again off down leg. Williamson has a little bit of a flick at it, but I don't think there was any real intent there, and again gathered by the lively Rishabh Pant. Still 102 for 2.
So, this competition could do with improving in a number of ways. I'm sure they will look at, the point system and how people are playing each other home and away. I, for example, don't understand why there's any test matches that are being played which are not part of the World Test Championships. I think there shouldn't be a 2-tier system where some are and some aren't.
Or indeed a series is going on at the moment which is part of it, even though the final's being played, which is
that is fair enough, because you can,
as this one brings Williamson forward, but he plays it nicely. It's away to extra cover. There is no run. It's the end of the over, and we can get back to your social messages.
Yeah, you can start the qualifying for the next competition before the previous one's finished. It does happen in major world events. We're up to date on the tweets. On YouTube, it certainly feels like it's been 5 years, Fred, says Andrew Cook. Yes, I can imagine it has been. Lord Lucan suggests a fight to the death, bring on the gladiators. Well, if anyone knows about odd deaths, it would be a Lord Lucan. Or perhaps not deaths. Who knows? It's never been quite proven one way or the other.
He's off riding Shergar over the downs somewhere.
But, do you think that, do either of you think that a 3-test series to decide the winner makes more sense?
Yes, 100% for the final. I'm not quite so sure I agree about the semi-finals, but certainly I would agree with you with the finals.
Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine a 7-week or 8-week tournament where you have 3-test semi-finals, and of course, if you've gone through after your first 2, then you've got an extra week off, which would be an advantage for the team, not having to play that many games.
I think given the scheduling, it's tough, though. But semi-finals would suit tough.
We wait for Ishant to come in to Ross Taylor, who's absolutely in no hurry to get moving.
Or you
can a leaf out of Pujara's book.
You could have the higher seeded teams playing semi-final, a 3-match semi-final series at their home, which would be an advantage to finish higher in the table. So, I mean, there are a number of ways you could go with this. I don't have a problem with the formula of the competition, or the idea of the competition. I just think there are tweaks which can make it much better.
It's a learning experience for the ICC as well, right?
Yeah. Do they learn though?
Well, who knows? I think the theory to Taylor is he does tend to fall away a little bit as he's forward to Sharma, just pushes it back to the bowler. He does, Anindo, have that little tendency to perhaps slightly fall away to his left, and the feeling that sort of swinging the ball into his legs would rather encourage that. So do you think that's really the theory that New Zealand are operating with here?
India, yeah.
India.
I think Jack threw a very interesting stat in there, which I'm assuming he's checked, which is Taylor's in the first 30 balls he's something like the worst batsman in the world or something like that. I mean, he's the most tentative ever. So among batsmen.
Well, he's living up to that reputation very well so far, and he's certainly no aggressive intent on that, which was a ball more classically of on a length and on off stump, and he was forward again just to push it into the offside. Never assume, you know what they say, makes an ass out of you and me.
Yep.
But I'm sure it was fact checked. 102 for 2.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah,
he sounds like a solid young man.
Except when he's commentating with Annie, that tends to somewhat discombobble him, I've noticed, but that might be another story. I don't know why that would be.
What are you suggesting, Tony?
I think it's more when he's teased about his age, actually. As we'll wait for Ishant Sharma, who is onto leg, and Ross Taylor hold the front page. Has flicks it away, and it is, as you rightly say, Fred, I think it's a leg by. Yeah. Richard Illingworth, though, is waiting for confirmation of that. He's poised with one arm out.
Because they're thinking of reviewing it, so he can't suggest that it's going to be a leg by, even though he's got his hand there to tap his knee until they've decided not to review it.
If they reviewed
Otherwise,
that,
he's
it would
giving
have
away
been
some information.
Extraordinary. It was skeleton down the leg. It was high and above.
Hit him outside the line and wouldn't have hit another set.
No. So it is a leg by. Ross Taylor continues to nurture his reputation as propagated by Jack, that he's a slow and steady merchant rather than a all guns blazing from the off merchant. Certainly living up to that, I would say. And it was from CricViz, apparently. Jack tells us. 103 for 2. Trailing at the moment are New Zealand by 114 runs. So what these two build is going to be pretty crucial, I think, for where their innings will end up. This one is short, and Williamson looked to pull and then changed his mind and ultimately let the ball go through. And it's a warning for Ishant that's one for the over. And the score stays on 103 for 2. Yeah, and Williamson got himself into position and then
did an amazing
job
collecting that ball. Pant, with his height, did an amazing job collecting that ball.
Yeah, well, he's got spring heels, doesn't he, Rishabh Pant? He can certainly take off. And we're seeing that there. He really took it goalkeeper style in the top right-hand corner. Not the tallest, but he certainly has the power of the leap. As Williamson awaits Sharma and solidly defends back to the bowler. Again, there is no run. End of the 14th over from Sharma. 1 for 19 for him. 103 for 2 New Zealand. Fred.
Just to run through, if people haven't been aware what's going on, the updated times, and I'm giving these in times in the UK. The first session is 11:30 to 1:30, so we've got 1 hour and 40 minutes left of that. Then a 40-minute lunch break. Then from 2:10 to 4:10 is the afternoon session, and 4:30 to 7, light permitting, is the evening session. Tim Everingham asks, evening Gorillas, which tells us perhaps where he is, wondering when the next World Test Championship starts. And I think it already has. Is the West Indies versus South Africa series part of the World Test Championship? I think it is.
I thought it was part of this round rather than the beginning of the next round.
Well, how could it be part of this round?
Well, that's the question.
I'm sure it's the next round.
I'm sure Knuckle, the all-seeing, all-knowing one, will be able to confirm. But I genuinely thought it was part of.
What would be the point of that?
Well, the point, and you're looking for logic where it may not exist, as this one is guided by Taylor down to gully, and there is no run.
What would they have if they would have qualified for the final? Would they play two games in 2 continents? I mean, no. Once the top 2 have been decided, there's no reason why you can't start qualifying for the next one straight away.
Okay, so I have a very basic question here. Are all bilateral test matches a part of the World Test Championship?
Well, they certainly haven't been in the past, because I know England played a couple of tests in New Zealand
So this could well be
2 years ago,
not
which
a
were
part.
not part of the WTC for a reason that was never satisfactorily explained.
Okay, so there's the answer.
Yes, you are definitely. We'll wait for Bumrah, who is in to Taylor, who this time you can hold the front page because he is off the mark with his 14th delivery, guided to short extra, and he will get himself a run. So he is off and running. What are we looking at here? Great tests. Oh, it was Sri Lanka and South Africa. Are we looking at these as a sort of a retrospective given the occasion? When was it? February 2019, Sri Lanka beat South Africa by 1 wicket.
Therefore,
I think they're looking at historic tests. I think 104 for 2. Bumrah in, ducked under by Kane Williamson, who just adjusts his helmet, and the spring-heeled pant once again took that above his head, and there is no run.
So England-India kicks off the next one.
right. So Knuckle has confirmed that the West Indies versus South Africa was due to have been a World Test Championship series, but it was postponed because of the pandemic.
Right.
So I assume that means it's not counting towards the next. They don't. The South Africans' 2 Test match wins will not give them World Test Championship points for the next cycle.
Okay, in comes Bumrah, and we've been lauding Rishabh Pant, but he fumbled that. No damage done though. He sort of dropped the ball down to his toes as it went past Williamson's outside edge. So in an attempt to look for logic from the ICC, we are now appointing Knuckle as their official spokesperson to try and extract logic where none may exist and explain it to people. That would be a good job, actually. I'm not sure what job title you'd give it.
I mean, I've criticised the ICC for a number of things in the past, but this is something that nobody could have foreseen and nobody could have do anything about.
Fair
what's
enough.
happened over the last 18
Bumrah's
months.
in, left alone by Williamson, through to Pant. No run.
And
5 balls of this over from Bumrah, just the single so far.
We're pleased to have seen as much cricket as we have over the last year, considering what's been going on everywhere. Andrew Cook, I'll leave it for another ball because it's a longish message.
Okay, you can definitely do that. There is just the 1 ball, barring no balls or wides, and we will wait for Jasprit Bumrah to bowl it to the New Zealand captain, Kane Williamson. 3 slips and a gully await, and Williamson will not trouble them as he just drops the bat ball down to the offside, and there is no run. 104 for 2, 54 overs completed.
Andrew Cook says, I think the problem would be what to do with the teams that don't make the semis and finals. They have to make some money somehow. How far in advance are tour arranged? Yes, there is certainly going to be, could be a scheduling issue, but I think if my idea of having it in one country, the semis and the finals over 2 months, I think, teams would probably keep that clear, or certainly teams who thought they'd have any chance of qualifying for the top 4 would keep that window clear. And then if it appeared they weren't going to be in the top 4, then they could make arrangements with the other teams who aren't going to be in the top 4 as well. It's not an impossible scheduling exercise if the window is relatively small, smaller than the size perhaps of a World Cup.
That is true. New Zealand trailing by 113 at the moment, and Ishant Sharma continues the attack to Ross Taylor, who's been the very definition of a cautious starter with just 1 from 15, and he's not going to add to that off that ball. We should mention, of course, that the GPL is well and truly open, not to be forgotten. Guess how many runs are going to be scored in the day, and you could win the money that's in the pot. And I think in the pot at the moment is about £77 was the last time I saw. You go to gorillacricket.com/competitions. Everything you need to know to place your guesses are there. It's £1 a guess. You can have as many guesses as you like. The more of you enter, the further up that will go. Normally we keep it open till lunchtime. We will, I think, continue to do that today. So the earlier you get in, the better it is, but you have to guess the number of runs in total for the day, as Taylor will get himself another run, because he's pushed this to mid-on, and they've taken a quick single. The GPL will close at lunch. That is the lunchtime that is applied on the field here, not the original lunchtime. But so I would take your opportunity to get in as quick as you can. We've had some big winners in the past.
This is the only sport where you've got an old lunch and a new lunch.
An old, yes, an old lunch and a new lunch. You don't
generally want to see your old lunch.
No. Once you've digested it, you really don't want to be having a second look at any point, do you? 105 for 2. Williamson on 12. Ishant Sharma's about to bowl the third ball of his 15th over. He's in from that hotel end, and he tucks Williamson up there. He took it in the midriff and it dropped down to his toes, with the usual polite request that the bowler doesn't mind him doing the fielding on the opponent's behalf. Williamson reaches down and picks the ball up.
Yeah, I think he needed to reach down and pick something else up, or closely related. Oh no, I thought
no,
it was him higher than that.
It was midriff height, it wasn't dangler's height, for which I'm sure Kane Williamson will be much relieved. What is of interest is that it really did hurry through. It was a very sharpish delivery at a particularly awkward height, and it sort of came in that little bit as well, I think, at Indo, didn't it? So to trouble Kane Williamson, it has to be a decent delivery.
And I think it hurt.
And it hurt. Dr. Dutta from Singapore has diagnosed the fact that probably smarted a bit. As Sharma's in again, once again on leg stump for Williamson this side, and he just this time, and he pushes into the onside. There is no run, 82 miles an hour from Ishant. That ball is getting a good old shine by Jinka Rahane before it's sent on its way back to Ishant Sharma.
Probably a bit
54
damp.
overs now. Yeah, a bit of dampness. Trying to get some shine, trying to keep that swing to help Ishant out. And he's going to be bowling once more to Williamson. 2 slips in a gully. A weight, down leg, little flick, but it goes through to Pant. Well, Virat Kohli seemed to think he heard something. Richard Illingworth is just shaking his head, kind of. If there was a word bubble above his head, it would go, "What are you talking about, Virat?" And indeed, there is no review, and we will move on.
Support.
He did what? I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear what you said there, Andy.
No, I said.
Oh, no support.
Kohli
No
had
support.
no support on that at all.
No, not even from the bowler, from what we could see. No.
Well,
It's one of those where if the captain puts his arms up, then the rest of the team probably go, "Crikey, we'd better do the same thing."
Well, there's two ways of looking at it. Bowlers like to use reviews, but on the other hand, they don't want to waste reviews because they think they might need one sometime soon for one that isn't given. So,
Also, from Kohli's fielding position, I'm not sure he's the best equipped to see a leg side strangle.
I think he needs to appear on screen for as much as possible.
Well, there is that in his contract, of course, as this one is pushed away to backward square, and they will take another single.
But
So Williamson will move on to 13.
Enough on screen. Yeah, I think he appears enough on screen without crying.
He does. What was the unbelievable social media figures for his wedding? I mean, it pretty much broke Twitter, didn't it, in terms of the volume of people, or Instagram, one of the two, probably both. He's a sort of social media superstar. Are we due a changeover? I could see that being asked. Yes, we're getting the circulation signal.
Thumbs down.
I think I'm staying the thumbs down from Emperor.
See you folks. Have a good match.
So, and Nindo and Tony will be leaving us.
I think I'm staying actually from the last thing I saw, but I'm utterly
I think
confused.
Jack and Gary are coming in to join me. It's not only the people doing the lunch at the Hampshire Bowl that have to worry about odd timings. Us too.
Oh yes, I am off.
So thank you, Tony, for that last half an hour, and we will start at this new spell with Bumrah, who's bowling to Ross Taylor, and that's just nudged down towards the gully, and it is a dot ball. Welcome, Jack.
How you doing, Fred?
Fine, thank you, and welcome, Gary.
Yes, delighted to be here. First of the match I've seen. I've missed a lot of rain. I haven't missed much this morning, though. It's been a bit grim, hasn't it?
Well, I'm sure it'll lighten up now. Us three are on. As Bumrah, that last ball was not to Taylor, it was to Williamson, and so will this next ball be, as he's up to the crease now. Bowls wide of off stump, and Williamson does not essay a shot. Well, Jack, for the last half an hour, everybody's been talking about what Jack thinks about various things. You very quickly established yourself as the go-to guy for mainstream opinion. So, how is this going, Jack?
It's attritional by New Zealand so far, but I think of the two teams, they're the ones that can afford to be a little bit careful. If they battle day, then they could win this Test match, and Taylor and Williamson know that.
Yeah, and I also think they think if they collapse now, they can lose in this Test match. So as Bumrah's in again to Williamson, well wide, he doesn't play. Which of you is doing social media messages?
I'm on social. Do you know where we were up to, Fred?
As far as the tweets that I can see are concerned, the last one I read, the next one to be read, I think, is Paul Marshall, and you may have answered that question already 7 minutes ago.
Do we think it will still be a draw? Probably, but
well, if there is no more rain, and it's a big if, we've got close to 200 overs perhaps left in this match. A lot can happen in that time, or maybe 190 overs. As Bumrah, right arm over the wicket to the right-handed Williamson. This is closest to him. He does have to play it. Goes on the back foot and just drops it into the offside. No run.
My concern about what we've seen this morning is that New Zealand have let the ball go outside the off stump, which is fair enough. They've defended the balls on the stumps. But where I think they've missed out is that there's been quite a lot down the leg side that have been relatively easy scoring options that they haven't been able to take or been not willing to take. And I think if you're going to leave it outside off, defend on the stumps and miss the ones down leg, it's a recipe for stasis.
Bumrah in again, a straighter ball, which Williamson defends square on the offside. To Gully, 106 for 2, the match situation. New Zealand trail by 111 runs. I think they need, when they had some sort of a huddle or a meeting in the dressing room, they probably said, we have to bat all day. And if we do bat all day, we might find ourselves with a lead of 120, and then we may be in a position to really attack. Put ourselves in a position where we can't lose it, and then we can really attack on the day 17 or whatever it is tomorrow, as the next ball is well outside the off stump, left through to Pant, the end of the over, and we're going to have a little drinks break or some kind of equipment refresh for the batsman, and let's hear some social media messages.
Yeah, we've got a couple in. Hombre Nuevo says, "Good morning, Grillers. An ethical question for the team. Would you prefer the World Test Championship here in the UK and suffer the risk of rain-affected play, or somewhere sunny and a lot less risk of rain, but also forcing the team to do overnight/early morning commentary?" I say bring on the rain on that front.
Well, I mean, we just had a Test match in St Lucia, I believe, which was which lost a good amount of time to rain. So it's possible that the weather interferes everywhere.
My idea, by the way, is sort of halfway house to yours, Fred. I mean, I do think if you're going to do this, do it properly. And so I like your idea of a 2-month window and play semi-finals and a final over 3 Test matches. But my idea is simply to play 450 overs. So it may be that there's a 6th day or a 7th day. It's highly unlikely it'll go into an 8th day. What are these guys doing on Thursday or Friday? I mean, they might be watching the Euros like the rest of us, but surely in the slightly unusual circumstances of 2 days of washed out play, we could catch up a bit. As long as they bowl 450 overs, let's have a test.
This is, a start of a new over from Shami, which started wide outside the off stump and swung so prodigiously that it basically went towards first slip. The keeper did get across. Unsurprisingly, didn't take it cleanly. But that is absolute prodigious swing after pitching. The poor first slip was backing away as he suddenly realised he doesn't have a box on and he doesn't want to get caught in a nasty area. Unsurprisingly, as that
He's coming down fast and moving it too. Tell me the answer. He may be a bowler, but he's often injured.
Mohammed Shami. Oh, this is an absolute classic delivery, which turns Taylor inside out, misses the outside edge. But that was, well, an unplayable delivery, as seen by the fact that Taylor didn't play it. That was zeroing in towards middle and off, and then has gone away from him late and was taken one-handedly, snow-coned, as the baseball aficionados call it, where the ball is in some part of the glove, but most of it can be seen over the top of it.
That's the kind of delivery you get on a kind of wet afternoon in Haslingden when you're the imported pro bowling to club players.
Shami in again, and Taylor decides to drive. I think he thinks there's a ball with his name on it, and he's drived it sweetly through extra cover, and that's his first boundary in the first of the day.
1 2 ka 4 4 2 ka 1. My name is Lakhan. My name is Lakhan.
It's good play from Taylor there, a bit of experience. He's been beaten by an absolute peach the previous delivery, but he knows that if he lets Shami just bowl half volleys to him, there will be one with his name on. So part of that drive, I think, is to get Shami just to pull his length back, which will allow him to leave the ball a little more easily.
And he did get right to the pitch of it. It was a very good shot. That one is dragged back a little bit by Shami, and rose on Taylor. I think he took that off the handle. It just dropped into the offside, and they are showing a little bit more willingness to take quick singles, which is probably a good idea. Let's have a look at that ball. It was a bit shorter and got up. Yeah, it caught him just on the bottom hand stroke handle. It's a moral victory for the bowler, because those can easily go straight to the slips or the keeper. It brings Williamson onto strike. 111 now for 2, Nelson.
Shami appears to be playing with a different ball on a different pitch, and possibly in a different country altogether than what we've seen previously from Ishant and Bumrah. Extraordinary overs so far.
Well, they do. Just because you have right-arm seam bowlers doesn't mean they're all the same, as this is again a little bit shorter, and Williamson goes back and just nudges this into the offside. There isn't a run. Yeah,
but they've all been sort of holding up the seam and looking to get a little bit of swing and a little bit of seam, and Shami's got more in 5 balls than we saw in the previous sort of 6 or 7 overs. We haven't seen anything cross seam or anything round the wicket or anything like that. He does seem to be getting a lot more from the resources at his disposal.
Well, yes, he is at the minute, and he'll be bowling to Kane Williamson, who's not in the best of form. As this is an LBW appeal, as that's come back, and I think that's too high. Even though Williamson is pretty deep in his crease, it's possible it was close to the inside edges as well. There seems to be no suggestion that no thought of a review, so that's the end of the over. 111 for 2.
Over on YouTube, we've got quite a lot of people watching, so if you are, make sure you click like and subscribe to increase the reach of Guerrilla Cricket. Just a quick hello to Radha, Shankar, Mahender and Manjeet though. And then on Twitter, Frong says it's nice to have men in white and some in black pants wearing a white wide-brimmed hat on the field. Looking at the radar, we might get interruption in the final session. Hopefully we don't. Don't curse us. And Dan Dype has sent us in a nice picture of Ross Taylor driving, or defending, sorry, as well as Ravinair, who says he has drived it sweetly, not Fred, again ignoring driven. Yeah, there you go, Fred.
Well, this is almost, I'm almost like a batsman who hasn't batted for a while and is facing up to the opening bowlers on an overcast morning. I'm feeling for it a bit. You have to give me a bit of time to get into my stride, or I might get out. Anyway, first ball of a new over is down the leg side, and they are going to get a run of some description, as Pant doesn't field that cleanly. It's going to be a leg by. It says umpire Goff. We haven't seen a replay of that aborted LBW appeal, the last ball of the last over.
Yeah, it was a good ball. It was possibly a little high, but what was impressive about it is that it angled in, if anything, possibly just holding its line. So if Shami's going to get them to go both ways, and he did in that first over, then this is going to be quite a spell coming up. Of course, what he might do is move the ball too much either way, take the pad going over the top of the stumps with the inner, and miss the edge with the outer.
Ishant into Kane Williamson, and this comes back in when he gets his bat. He doesn't really get a full stride forward, and it comes back in towards him, in towards his pads. Perhaps an inside edge, or perhaps that's caught him somewhere.
Yeah, Ishant's getting a bit more joy from the other end, from the end that he started from. So he switched ends, and he's getting the ball to do a little more from what might be called Bumrah's end.
Did you notice that after Shami got driven by Taylor, the next two balls were, well, probably a good few feet shorter?
Yeah.
And were still causing difficulty, but I think the batsman will be happier for it to be pitching there than very full. So 112 for 2, New Zealand trailing by 105 runs. It's testing conditions out there, but as long as they're 2 down, as long as they keep wickets in hand, as the ball gets older and perhaps some sun appears overhead, it may get easier to bat. It might not. Ishant in again, and this is a straighter ball, which Williamson defends onto the leg side, no run.
Yeah, Williamson has a technique that's almost tailor-made for English conditions, playing the ball very late, sitting deep in his crease, watching the ball closely, to be able to let the ball go if it's swinging away and play it late if it's swinging in. And yet his record in England does not suggest that he is a good player in English conditions. Surely that has to change at some point. He's such a classy bat with such a well-honed technique and excellent temperament, but it seems quite strange that a man who has a record as good as any in the history of the game, really, outside one or two outliers, has such an ordinary record in a country in which you would expect him to score heavily.
Yes, he had a very unhappy county stint with Yorkshire, if I remember correctly, where he could barely get into double figures.
Yeah, got a few noughts in a row, I think, at one point.
And they don't play, New Zealand don't play very many tests in England, or anywhere, unfortunately, as Ishant is up to the wicket bowling to Williamson, who watches this onto the middle of the bat. Push to cover, no run.
I wonder if someone can tell us how many run-outs there's been between Williamson and Ross Taylor, but it must be quite high, and Taylor was about halfway down there because Kane Williamson had taken 2 or 3 steps down, and then Williamson held up his bat and shouted no. And Ross Taylor, who doesn't turn perhaps as quickly at 35 or so as he at the moment as he did at 25, was scrambling to go back. You do not want to be batting in these conditions and have a run out.
Apparently there have been 3. And
is that all?
With Taylor the victim each time. So this is the message from Knackle in the green room. Well, it's not. It's actually the control room, but he's got a green screen behind him. So
control room. Is he sitting inside a giant Terry's chocolate orange like Joe 90?
I'm not sure. Ishant comes in and bowls, and it's outside the off stump. Williamson leaves it, dies on the way through to Pant. Is that the end of the over? No, there is one more ball. Some reason the cricket, I don't want to wind up Gary and let him run. It's not been flowing all that quickly this morning. But yeah, okay, we'll stop it right.
I've taken a self-denying ordinance not to raise that, particularly because I have to go at 6 o'clock. I've got to do
you might have finished
review
the
a play.
by then. Yeah.
So I'll be missing the extra overs anyway.
It is certainly slow going as far as the run rate is concerned, but that is due very much to very testing bowling, as Ishant into completely over to Williamson. Comes into him onto the pads. It's played off the thigh pad to a short leg who has just appeared, and there is no review. The end of the over, 112 for 2. Jack, what are people saying?
He dummied us a little bit there, didn't he, Gil, with the fake celebration? Not a lot on Twitter, so if you're on Twitter, tweet at us, I guess. Over on Twitter, or over on the other thing, YouTube, we've got Kumar, Sajan, Andrew, Jadram who have joined us. So again, hit that. We've doubled the number of likes in an over. Let's beat the YouTube algorithm. And
we keep doing that, and you'll be up in the billions shortly.
Well, probably, yeah. It's how to win YouTube. Interact with us. Say hello.
A pandemic of likes on YouTube.
That's what we want.
First ball of a new over from Shammy, who was first over, was very testing. This is to Ross Taylor. It's full, and he block drives this on the onside. No run. Shammy shakes his head as he makes his way back to his mark. Did the ball rebound onto the stumps? I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was driven straight into the stumps. So
okay.
They're testing that the bright lights are going on. I don't think we have these lit up bails in English Test matches, do we? I think we have normal bails in English Test matches, but we do have the lit up ones for the one days.
ICC competition.
Yeah, it's being paid at the Hampshire Bowl, by the way, as well. They're very careful on other commentary services to refer to it as the Hampshire Bowl. Well, in the same way in the Olympics we had to refer to the North Greenwich Arena.
Well, we're not being paid by Aegeus, so we have no reason to call it that. As Shammy bowls a shorter ball, or rather not a full ball, and Taylor goes onto the back foot to defend. It was like that during the World Cup as well, where all the grounds in England that had names, some of them extremely dubious names, God knows what the Derby and Essex grounds are called this year, but they were not known by that because the ICC weren't getting any money. Fair enough, it's their competition.
At Surrey they changed the seats around so that you couldn't read what Kia, I think, are the sponsors. So the K, I and A, or a different colour, in the stands were moved around.
As Shammy bowls again, Taylor leaves this outside the off stump. It wasn't that far outside the off stump, but he was happy with perhaps the length, and it wasn't going to trouble the stumps. Or if Kia do stop sponsoring Surrey, maybe they could get IKEA to do it, and they could have minimal changes needed in the seating patterns. Yeah. Really, they made them pull up to those brown seats that were spelling Kia.
Yeah, they did. What's interesting is you've already pointed it out, but we've seen in these first three deliveries that Ross Taylor's extra cover drive has pulled Mohammed Shami's length back a long way.
And again, by these ones beaten outside the off stump, it was perhaps a touch fuller than the last couple, and did move away. And Taylor did not withdraw his bat, he was beaten by that. This is tough. These are tough conditions for batting at the moment, and they need to be endured rather than enjoyed as a batsman.
Yeah, you're kind of wondering what Virat could be doing here. He has put a short leg in for the last ball, the previous over. One wonders if he needs to put in a silly point or something here, because he's so on top. He has to take wickets. He's got 3 slips in a gully.
This one is left by Taylor again. He's leaving them. They are quite close to the off stump, but if they're short enough, I think he's confident in the bounce of the track that even if they were to come back, it would go over the stumps. So it's difficult. But you probably, if you were a New Zealander, could not ask for 2 better batsmen to try and cope with these conditions and this bowling.
Yeah, I definitely kind of have a silly point in here for Shami, because Taylor knows he has the inside edge of the bat to himself here, because if it pops up, there's nobody there to catch it.
Shami, and again, this one's wider. It did swing again after pitching, but Taylor is not interested. At the end of the 13th over, and the score's just off the screen. Jack, what are people saying out there in internet land?
We've got John Perry who's saying, enjoying your coverage. We're trying to translate the most appalling load of corporate claptrap into semi-reasonable English. You chaps are keeping me sane. So hi John, glad that we can be of service. And then over on Twitter we've got Chess Guy who's asked, is Ashwin warming up yet? Has anyone seen Ashwin? I haven't seen Ashwin.
Nope.
Sunil Gavaskar was speculating or said that India should bowl the spinner at one end all day, which I think is probably a little bit bold in these conditions. But
if he's still saying that after having watched the last half an hour, I'd be very surprised, because it looks like an edge could materialise every other ball. As we're seeing an aerial view of a very pretty ground, it looks. I've never been to the Aegeus / Rose / Hampshire Bowl. Apparently it's not easy to get in and out of, but it does look like a cricket ground, as this is on the leg stump. first ball of Ishant's new over to Williamson. He doesn't take advantage because he hits it straight to mid-wicket.
Isn't it a little bit in the middle of nowhere?
Apparently so, but it's hard to build large stadiums in built-up areas.
It's not quite in the middle of nowhere. It's not that far out of the sort of centre of Southampton, and it's got sort of big supermarkets and shops. Those big kind of shops where they do, I don't know, B&Q or something. I don't understand those shops where you get do-it-yourself stuff. So. It's not in the way of some of those West Indies grounds 5 miles away from anything.
Ishant bowls again down the leg side. Williamson tries to tickle it down to fine leg, misses. Pant takes.
They must have missed out on at least 20 runs down the leg side, which are just on offer. It's not a difficult shot to get some bat on that and get it down to long leg. Often you're going to get 4 for it, but you're going to get at least 1. And they've left a lot of those runs on the field. It's good that there's a short leg in here for Ishant, because you do have to attack, I think, both edges of the bat. There's plenty of attack on the outside edge of the bat with slips and a gully, but I think you've got to just not let the batsman think I can play outside this, and if I inside edge it goes onto the pad and there's no jeopardy.
In comes Ishant. Perhaps wider of the crease, and an attempted drive through the offside has gone out to square leg from Williamson, very much the inside half of the bat. A rare run, just a single to him. He's on to 14 of 76 balls.
Yeah, rare for
13 for 2.
Rare for Williamson there, because he didn't really move his feet. There was a bit of, I think, slight lapse in concentration there from Williamson. He's been there a long time without making many runs, and that can play on a batsman's mind. And Virat Kohli now is just sort of miming the fact that he went with his hands rather than with his feet at that ball. Or maybe he's just trying to stay warm. Some of the Indians perhaps thinking of a warm day in Chennai and not a cold day in Southampton.
Well, Williamson failed in the first test against England, didn't play the second, as Ishant is in this time to Taylor, and he has got that down the leg side quite fine. I think there was some bat in that, and it wasn't far from Pant's dive, and it has been given us 4 runs, so it'll be interesting to see how close that was to the diving keeper.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, they cashed in there, Gary, but could have been troublesome.
Wow, you're going to take that? Well, it would have been an absolutely sensational catch. He did well to get as close as he did. It was off the gloves, so some credit to Ishant Sharma for getting a bit of bounce there. But oh well, who's catching that? Rod Marsh off?
Well, I don't know, but if you're bowling there, put in a leg slip.
Well, surely not. I must agree. This is reputed, with some justification, to be India's breaker.
Ishant bowls, and this is a loose drive outside the off stump by Taylor. He's played outside the ball, and he's not looking comfortable. I wouldn't quite say he's a walking wicket, because he's far too good a batsman to dismiss like that. But he really needs to go back to basics here and sort out his concentration and his technique. It's difficult, they are difficult conditions, but he's played a very, very loose drive. He took one hand off the bat, in fact, as it went between the bat and pad.
Well,
lucky there.
Maybe that shot is going to rebut my point I was going to make, which is that this is reputedly the greatest India attack in its history. All the conditions are so strong in their favour, and yet they haven't really created a chance here. I know they've got 2 class men at the crease, but
this next ball is a little bit shorter, and Taylor reaches forward and plays this square on the offside towards point. There is no run. The end of the over, testing over 117 for 2, 60 overs gone. Jack, what have you got to say to us?
We've got Kalavainen and Guru joining us on YouTube as well, so keep saying hello on there, keep hitting that like button, keep subscribing. And Chess Guy, who said he's disappointed we didn't have the 1-2 K4 jingle for that boundary, which is the first of the day, I think. So next time, Knuckle, I guess you know what to do.
Jingles by request. You can also, if you send us a few quid, we will play it all day, even if there are no 4s.
It was, of course, the second of the day. There was the extra cover drive, and then the
of course, yeah.
There was, but if you're expecting to hear lots of 4 jingles, this may not be the session for you. Jack, do you think that New Zealand are thinking, let's bat all day?
I think that's obviously what they're thinking.
But I mean, almost regardless of the run rate, as Shammy starts a new over outside the off stump, and it then swings back. Pant is not having an easy time of it through no fault of his own, really, because the ball is doing some odd things after pitching. I was trying to suggest that almost regardless of the run rate, if they're still in their first innings at the close of play today, they could be in a very strong position.
Well, exactly. I mean, if they continue at the rate they're going at, they'll be about 100 ahead by the end of the day, which, it's not a game-winning lead, but it certainly puts you with you're the only team with a chance of winning on.
Well, exactly. It takes the loss out of the equation for New Zealand if that were the case. And it's a long way ahead as Shammy bowls to Williamson wide of the off stump. That one doesn't swing or move, and I'm sure Pant's grateful for that as he takes.
I would find it extremely hard to believe that New Zealand will continue in this style. Score 200 runs in a day, which they'll get nowhere near unless they play a few more shots, but also not lose the 8 wickets that they have. Conditions are very, very difficult. Something's got to give here in that wickets are going to go down or runs are going to be scored, because it's just too hard to do what they're trying to do at the moment.
As Shammy bowls again down the leg side, and that one is off the thigh pad as Williamson tried to glance into the ground. And Pant does get behind it.
They have so little.
What do you have them do, Gary? What do you think the releases are for them in this situation?
Well, there's so little attacking intent here from New Zealand that there is going to be one with the name on it. I mean, Kane Williamson has just got a real shocking ball down the leg side, and he missed it yet again. I mean,
but I still think, Gary, if they're 2 wickets down and 40 behind, they are in a strong position, and they have taken the loss out of the equation, even more so if it takes a lot of time, as Shammy's in again to Williamson, leaves outside the off stump, and if you as I said earlier, you can lose the game here if you're New Zealand. You can't win it in the next 2 hours, but you can go a long way towards taking the loss out of the equation.
Well, I think you can, but I do think they've got to try and make some runs here, because starting is going to be difficult. I mean, I don't think we're going to see Colin de Grandhomme come in and start flashing the ball to the boundary, for example.
He will try though, and
he might try. There's been no trying so far at all.
If they're near parity after tea and he comes in and does that, then there's no pressure on him, and if it works and he gets 50, that could win the game.
A straighter ball from Shammy is defended by Williamson. Yes, I mean, if you look at the lower middle order of Jameson and de Grandhomme and Southey, they are capable of scoring runs quickly.
Jameson. What did you say, Jameson?
Yeah.
I mean,
the other Jameson. Yeah.
I take those points, but if ever there was a day, at the moment anyway, we don't know if the sun's going to come out, but if ever there was a day that looks like 1 wicket brings 2, brings 3, it's today.
But honestly, you can't be saying. I know you're saying take advantage of the loose balls, but you can't be saying they should be throwing the bat, as this is a very full ball, a Yorker length almost, as Williamson just drives us to cover. You're saying the classic.
He defended the half volley.
The classic coaching thing, which is don't get out, score quick runs, and we are going to have a change.
Yeah. But I'm not actually saying that. What I'm saying is cash in on the balls down the leg side and don't defend half volleys.
But I think that given the option, they would say, it is. We are having a changeover now. I'm leaving. Tony's coming on. I shall look forward to discussing with you later, Gary.
Yeah, of course.
Just over on Twitter, we've got on YouTube, we've got Joshua who asks, does playing in English conditions favour New Zealand over India? I'd say undoubtedly. And Angus saying, get to parity, then send in the mullet, which is maybe not a bad plan. Yes, so that's up. We're up to date on social media, Tony, for when.
So just 12 overs in the first hour and just 16 runs, but crucially for New Zealand, no loss of wickets. We'll hear from Tony as to what he thinks of the approach so far by New Zealand, as Ashanti's in, and this has just pushed into the offside. Again, no attacking intent, no intent in rotating the strike, and there is no run. New Zealand 117 for 2. They trail by 100. They seem to have trailed by 100 or so for at least half an hour.
I think they are a side that knows their game plan. They know trick and they, as we were discussing earlier, you can't win it this morning, but you could go some way to losing it. I think they're only trailing by now exactly 100. There's technically a day and a half left. Let them bed themselves in. The attack will come.
Let's see. Ishant is in again, and this is on off stump, and again it's just pushed straight to the man who's very close, saving one at mid-on, who I think is Ravichandran Ashwin. Yes, he is. He does need to be quite close there. He's not the greatest mover, but he's doing a job.
Jack, did you read the Dan News tweet? Or had you not got as far as that one? Just tell me that.
I did not read the Dan News tweet.
No problem.
Sounds quite exciting, though.
That one's just come in.
Ah, all right, then that's where I shall pick up.
Yes, we're coming to your tweets at the end of the over. You can tweet us at Gorilla Cricket. As Ross Taylor, low hands, faces up against the Sharma coming in, just lets this one go outside off stump, and that's another difficult ball for Rishabh Pant, who nevertheless makes the long barrier, bounces in front of him, takes it. I thought Pant's been pretty good behind the stumps today. Not been the easiest sighting day, never mind fielding day with the ball sometimes swinging after it's gone past the bat. It's a rough ride for a wicket-keeper. It often is in England, but Pant's been pretty good so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the one area of his game that I think some Indian supporters would have question marks about, but he's looked, for an away wicket-keeper in England, looked pretty handy so far.
Yeah, I might need to improve his shot selection in the second innings if conditions stay similar to this, but Ishant Singh has got plenty of experience of England, and he gets the ball on off stump, does Ross Taylor, and plays it with those low hands. The ball goes again to Ravichandran Ashwin. Again, I'm just thinking there, maybe it's the conditions or maybe it's the where we are in the game, but I think in lots of other circumstances Taylor would just have lent on that a little bit more and got it a couple of yards, 3 or 4 yards to the right of Ashwin, and got a strike rotating single in there. But the fielders are quite close in saving one, but they've been allowed to do that because New Zealand haven't really put them under any pressure with the attempt to rotate the strike. Taylor has 11 from 34, Kane Williamson has 14 from 82. Ishant's at the top of his run again. He's coming in, he's been bowling quite a while now. Ishant just missed one over while he changed ends, and again that's kind of what I'm looking for. He did try and hit that to the left hand of the man at short mid-wicket, who is, I think, it's very hard to tell with caps and glasses on there. Is it Rahane there at short mid-wicket? And there was no single. So Kohli, to his credit, and he's very good at this, Kohli, not least because he often leads the effort from short extra cover or short mid-wicket. He has his men in close, saving one. When the pressure's on, keep it on. And that's what he's doing.
I think there's just as much pressure on India here, though. I think New Zealand have actually played quite well over this hour, if I'm honest. I think, they haven't taken the game away from India, and substantially not much has changed, except that India's chance of winning has been squeezed slowly out of the game over the last 60 minutes. And
a new ball is closer. As Ishant is in, and this is defended, and it's the end of that over. The new ball is 18 overs away. Williamson has 14, Taylor has 11, New Zealand 117 for 2, and lots of people running on again, because what we really need is a few minutes of no cricket.
Right, Dan News, who I teased you with just a couple of balls ago. Now, I don't know who this relates to, whether he's still with us or has moved on. I don't know, you may well have a better idea than me. But Dan News says, who is this Mr. Negative talking down New Zealand? Take him off! Go watch a T20 or something. Has he watched any of this game? I don't know who that related to. And
who could it be? Who could it be?
And Indo
Who
says,
could it be criticising the side who've scored 16 runs in just over an hour when there's a World Test Championship at stake? Who could it be?
Nindo says, miles better now than he was a couple of years ago, but I didn't know who we're talking about.
I'll be your white-haired whinger from Liverpool, and I'll trash everything I see. Overrated drinks, breaks, footwear ain't cool, all said with confidence and hyperbole. No, I'll never, ever, ever concede I'm wrong and talk over everybody all day. I'll be your white-haired whinger from Liverpool, and I'll dismiss what all the listeners say. No,
Yes!
no, wrong. Actually,
Yes, if you want your vanilla commentary, there are other services available.
I'm going to say hello to a few people on Cricket Tracker India, Samad Khan, Karti, amongst others, and so many of you gracious enough to say you're liking our work. Inamul Ansari, Divyanshu Pandey, Balaram Bishu, Akash Tiwari, Deepak Kashyap, Ankit Sahu, Rahi Naik, Suresh, Raja Sangam, and Mahesh Khanna, to just name a few in an extremely long list. We are absolutely delighted that you are with us. Muttley says, wishing for a few minutes of no cricket. If it starts raining, it's all your fault.
Bottles have been more required, but here we are, sort of 3 or 4 minutes now without any cricket.
I've got my heating's come on. That's how cold it is here. Can you believe that from last week? And I put a jumper on to go outside to fill up my bird feeders just now, and it was a distinct chill, considering it's supposed to be June.
I heard this morning that the winter solstice was warmer than the summer solstice in England. There's Desi Haynes. I remember that 184 at Lords in 1980. That was his announcement, certainly in this country, that the West Indies had got a batsman to go alongside Gordon Greenwich. Fancy having that as your job as an opening bowler. You think, I'll just give this guy Greenwich one, get him off strike, and you look down the pitch, you see who is on strike, and it's Desi Haynes. Dear me.
Obviously, a reminder that 2 of the 10 new inaugurations to the ICC Hall of Fame, of course, taken from our theme tune. The ICC finally seeing the light and deciding that the best way to select members for that Hall of Fame is to mine Guerrilla Cricket jingles and theme tunes.
Yeah, I think when that...
They've done it with Sangakkara and Flower. Well done, them.
I think when that was being constructed, we got a kind of email, and I was in a meeting asking for cricketers that rhymed with revolutionaries, and I think I came up with 3 or 4, but one of them I'm pretty sure, and I'm pretty sure he won't get in the Hall of Fame, was Ho Chi Minh and Asif Din, which I still quite like. I think that was my one that made the cut. Yes, you're still listening to the cricket. It's not the lunch break, although I've played in some club matches with shorter lunch breaks than we've had for this drinks break. But we've got a change of bowling. We'll jingle him up. It's not what I expected, I have to say. I did expect a bit of a change of tempo, but we're not getting a change of tempo.
Now then, Marty Bumrah, oh, you're bowling again, aren't you? Oh, I thought as much.
He's on or about off stump, and Kane Williamson does that thing which I don't like, but it is the fashion these days. He runs 2 steps down the wicket and then holds his bat up, and Ross Taylor scuttles back. And we're seeing here the Indian seamers. Now, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I can count 11 or 12 deliveries down the leg side there, some of them quite considerably down the leg side. I think only one of them went for 4. I think only one of them might have gone for runs, and that's where I feel New Zealand have missed out quite significantly in the first hour. Here's Bumrah, and this is on off stump. It's just defended by Kane Williamson. Up in the mid-80s is Bumrah. He's not up at 90. On a good day he can get up to 90, but we haven't seen that today.
I think what that grid shows slightly more interestingly from my point of view anyway is before play started we were talking about whether India might gamble a little bit, pitch the ball up, accept they might go for runs but try and hunt wickets, and that grid is basically showing that they haven't really done that. Most of their deliveries carrying over the top of the stumps, which is obviously harder to score off, and we've seen that, but is less likely to, but has a lower strike rate.
Yeah, here's Bumrah again, and he just comes forward as Williamson just pushes it into the offside. So no change in approach from New Zealand's captain after the drinks break. I mean, we just saw a big swinging delivery from Mohammad Shami, another brilliant delivery from Mohammad Shami. He then got driven for 4 by Ross Taylor and really went back into his shell a little bit. I think that was a disappointing spell from Shami after a tremendous start.
Would either of you be tempted to really go on the attack here if you were India?
Well, it's Bumrah who's in, and Kane Williamson just defends. Well, if we're saying that New Zealand's game plan is to bat all day, get 100 or so ahead, then why wouldn't you go on the attack? Because at the moment, after an hour's play, you haven't created a chance. There's been no LBW shouts, there's been no reviews, there's been no dropped catches, there's been a tenth of a chance off Ross Taylor's gloves down the leg side, and horizontal Rishabh Pant couldn't get a hand on it. So you're waiting for a mistake a little bit here, India. It's not the worst strategy because, as I say, New Zealand are going to have to come out of their shell soon. But I'd be looking to attack a little more as this is just left outside off stump, goes through the keeper. Is
that not maybe New Zealand playing the game of 4-dimensional chess that is Test cricket quite well here by creating a situation that's going to force India's hand at some point? Because the longer this carries on, the lower and lower the chance of India being able to win this Test gets.
You don't win many matches leaving as many runs on the field as New Zealand have done in this hour, as I say, down the leg side in particular, strike rotation as well, and blocking a few half volleys. You just can't win a match leaving 30 runs an hour on the field, which is what they've done so far. As Bumrah is in, and Williamson gets one on the leg stump, and again he hits it straight at the man at short mid-wicket, and another maiden is completed, not particularly threatening from Bumrah, but with no intent shown by New Zealand. It's the end of the over, they're 117 for 2.
Yeah, quite a few messages. Angelic Scooter says, brilliant jingle. I do like the grace Gary takes it with. I've been away from listening to your airwaves for too long. Over on YouTube, Chess Guy 64 says, lovely jingles. Andrew Whitaker says, has Kane scored a run yet today? I think he scored 2, hasn't he? Started on 12. He's now on 14. Diane Keithley says, good afternoon, guys. And good afternoon to you, Diane. Delighted to have you with us. Barry Ballsit has retracted 3 messages and then managed to get the 4th one out, which was just a question mark. So I'm not quite sure what is going on there, Barry. But when you got something to say to us, we'll definitely read it. Jeff Perkins says, when Tony went outside to feed his bird to Philly's bird feeders, did he achieve parity?
A full drive, and it's caught. It's caught at short extra cover. Well done. That's Shubman Gill there. That was a tremendous catch because I think it was hit fairly full-bloodedly by Ross Taylor. But the man was in quite close there at short extra. He dived and he took the catch, and the game has opened up. Ross Taylor has gone for 11. Mohammad Shami has the wicket he deserved, and he got it by pitching it up.
A really good catch from Gill. A full length dive. He gets 2 hands to it, but it's low and it's hit well. I'm not sure he middled it, Taylor, but he got enough on it to probably think he'd get it past the man, I thought there.
Yeah, it was good reactions from Gill as well. Good concentration. You're probably not expecting the catch there. He's not quite in a catching position. He's in a sort of half and half, saving the single and looking for the mistimed drive. But the reward there for a bit of positive bowling by Shami, pitching it up as he did in the first over, but didn't do too much after that. And this next half hour or so now will show the benefit of New Zealand's approach, because if they lose 1 or 2 wickets now, then my criticism of them, I think, is borne out. But if Harvey Nichols comes in and can get a start, then they've done the right thing. But my concern is you leave runs on the field, difficult starting conditions and dank day with sighting the ball not clear. And Henry Nichols has got a job to do here. Williamson's also got to think as well, because if he's going to continue to score 2 runs an hour, he's going to put pressure on the man at the other end. And I think as a captain, he has to start putting a bit of the pressure back on the bowlers.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50 and more. You know Henry Nichols is racking up the score. Dozens of bowlers try to bring him down. Henry Nichols just laughs and goes to town.
Yeah, I think Ross Taylor just played at a ball that he had been leaving before. I think it was, again, maybe they worked on him, getting that pressure. Maybe he was looking for the release of the 4 that he hit earlier. Immediately round the wicket is Shami to Henry Nichols, and this takes a leading edge and skews off into the offside, where Nichols was looking to work it into leg, and he's off the mark with a somewhat unconvincing single. New Zealand 118 for 3.
Excellent catch by Shubman Gill, though. Really took it diving to his right, diving slightly forward as well. Fine catch.
Yeah, 2 hands went at the ball there. Some players would go with 1 hand there, but he was determined to go with 2. Bit of a swan dive there, but good technique as well. Nice big bucket for the hands, and no chance of the ball bouncing out as the elbows hit what would be quite a hard part of the square there on an old wicket. And Kohli's very pleased. Knew the camera was on him, would you believe?
What a hug he was giving there, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was a full-on cuddle.
Yeah, it's a good job it wasn't Billy Gilmore he was congratulating, as Mohammad Shami is in, and this is nudged off the pads down the leg side by Kane Williamson, and he gets the single I've been waiting for an hour and a bit. Ravindra Jadeja doing the fielding down there, returning the ball left-handed. Williamson gets a single. Well done, Kane. He goes to 15.
Do you think for that dismissal the ball maybe stopped on Taylor a little bit? 'Cause he was a long way out pushing at that. Or was it just a poor shot?
I think he's just not had any timing. He's not had any timing this whole tour, really, and he's used his experience and mental toughness to grind out runs, but he's not looked in any kind of rhythm as a batsman, and that was indicative of that. This is let go outside off stump, and it curves in and goes through for byes there. I think that may have hit a bowler's foot mark. Pant was nowhere near it, and all of a sudden the scoreboard is hurtling forwards. The New Zealand deficit now 94.
Ball went through to the keeper, but somehow
It kept low. It didn't hit a foot mark, but it did bring up a bit of a puff of dust. If that was on the stumps, that was bowling him, but it wasn't. It was outside the stumps. So we've had a wicket, 2 singles and 4 byes in this over so far. This is the entire highlights of the session in 1 over. This ball takes the outer part of Nichols' bat and goes to the man at Gully, but along the ground. And Virat Kohli is clapping his bowler with some justification rather than merely to keep his hands warm.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one, that one that went for 4 there. I think it kind of wrong-footed Pant and ended up doing... I don't know if you've ever played 5-a-side football and ever had to go in goal and made yourself look a bit like an arse trying to save one down to the right-hand side or something like that. 'Cause it wasn't a great dive. You looked very clumsy trying to stop it.
No, give him some mitigation in the moment as Shami lets this ball or bowls it, and better footwork from Pant there gets across. I always feel a little bit for the keeper when a ball has passed the off stump and you have to get down the leg side to get to it. In other words, it's curved with its natural line from right arm round the wicket to the left-hander. But it's gone so far that he was actually well outside the leg stump when he was attempting to stop the ball from a ball that missed the off stump.
Cricket Podcast has said first hour of play on day 5 has brought just 16 runs but crucially no wickets, so you can see that's aged now. This is tense and absorbing Test cricket fitting the World Test Championship final. With so much time lost, will this pace of play suit either of the teams if they want a result? We've certainly been discussing that. Warren says surely a PTM moment of wind direction assessment is due. The Shah of Blah says Deepdash Gupta, Parthi Patel and Dinesh Karthik never got better. DDG possibly got worse with time. Oxymoronica says I'm very happy for Gary that the game that a wicket has fallen.
Yes, the win predictor for what it's worth has India at 8% and New Zealand at 19%. Obviously the draw is at 73 as this ball goes through to the keeper, left alone by Kane Williamson.
He's been very, very careful, hasn't he, Williamson? Gary, I've been playing devil's advocate a little bit over the last 40 minutes or so, in that I do think you are right. They have missed out on some leg side scoring opportunities, but the flip side to that is that it has been very difficult, and I actually think Williamson would probably say to himself he's done quite a good job, even though he's only scored 3 runs today.
And here is Bumrah in again, outside off stump, goes through to the keeper. Tony, can you just do a little bit of ball by ball for me? I just need to check something in the kitchen, I've remembered.
Okay, I certainly can. It's 123.43 as Gary disappears to go and check whether his boiled egg has boiled or his microwave has pinged, or might not even be something to do with food. Who knows?
His fat fryer's on. Last time I was on Guerrilla Cricket, we had a 3-hour conversation about fat fryers, so let's not get caught up with that.
Kane Williamson is going to be facing Jasprit Bumrah, who is in, and Williamson kept quite low, and Williamson had a little flash outside of his off stump, but it went through to Rishabh Pant, and there again was no run. 94 now the deficit, but of course having started on 102 for 2, crucially, finally that breakthrough has been taken by Mohammed Shami, who got a rather tentative, slow, ponderous, some might say, Ross Taylor, who chipped to Shubman Gill, much to Captain Kohli's delight. 15 for Kane Williamson, so he's got 3 so far this morning. 3 slips await. That again is past his outside edge. Hands on head everywhere except Rishabh Pant, whose hands were too busy gathering the ball.
I've seen 3 quite similar dismissals so far, haven't they? In the all of them have been, not full-blooded, maybe attacking shots that have looped in the air to an infielder.
But what you all really want to know is, what was it in Gary's kitchen? We're going to find out.
I'm these days I'm on my own at the moment because I have one son in Bloomsbury, another back up in Durham visiting friends, and I get panicky about leaving stuff in the oven. So I've just checked and I didn't leave anything in the oven, so I'm alright. As Bumrah is in, and this is defended, and there is no run. Maybe that's too much domestic information.
So you basically went to check that that nothing was actually there at all?
That I hadn't left the oven on, because this is something I've done in the past. And so I get slightly hypersensitive about it, not least because one day I shall bore you with the subject of how I have tried and failed on at least 2 occasions to replace my aging gas cooker with a safer electric version.
We're all going to look forward to that story.
Look, there are things, believe it or not, that are even more boring that I don't say on air, as this is through to the keeper. It's the end of the over. New Zealand are 123 for 3. There are 94 runs behind.
Well, just in case Gary does go off.
A whole load of stories that I don't say because I deem them too boring. Can you believe?
Good Lord, I'd find that extremely hard to believe. Armchair Cricket Podcast says, wow, Twitter Jinx seems to have concluded we support New Zealand today. An appreciation tweet about the batters has caused an immediate wicket. Pseudo Gulti says, in saying so, Guerrilla Cricket reversed the curse of Mohammed Shami. Yes, we did. Certainly caused some excitement over on YouTube. Diane Keithley says, like that wicket. Chess Guy 64 says, let's go. He also says, open the floodgates. And Oliver Hurd says, Kane is able, going a little bit biblical on us.
Well, as long as it's not Jeffrey Archer, that's okay.
Leah very quickly says, I'm not that good at reading, but I think there were several, and then she lists a couple of swear words that Virat Kohli may well have let slip as he was celebrating that wicket. Certainly a release of tension, we thought, on Virat's part.
Yeah. Nice to hear from Angelic Scooters. I'll explain why in a moment, because Shami is around the wicket, goes wide of the crease and gets the ball to bounce on Henry Nicholls. There's a huge appeal here. The Indians think he got a bit of glove on that. Michael Goff says otherwise, and Virat's asking, did you hear it? And Mohammad Shami's saying, we might need a bit of Hindi swearing, lip reading here to find out exactly what's going on. And Kohli eschews his opportunity to review. But that got up quite significantly there. It was a short ball. It's about the first bouncer that I can recall seeing, and he fenced at it, did Nicholls. Didn't play it well at all. It was well directed, and he missed it with his gloves by a fair distance, I would suggest. And we're seeing Ultra Edge, which confirms no contact. Yeah, Angelic Scooters will be watching the Tour de France, I think, next week, and for the 3 weeks after. He tweets on that quite extensively, as this ball is cut hard and high over Gully to the vacant third man boundary for one of these.
My name is Lakhan. My name is Lakhan.
And Henry Nicholls there quite rightly is saying, well, if you're going to bowl it short and then you're going to think about going with DRS, then I'm not going to let you bowl short because I'm going to attack the ball. It was there to be hit, and hit it he did.
Yeah, good shot. Quite a lot of intent there compared to Kane Williamson's innings so far. Knackle just mentioning in the chat, 3 of 77 balls this morning.
It gets in behind this, does Nicholls, gets it into the leg side. There is a short leg in there, so he can't play outside the line with complete absence of jeopardy. We'll have a change at the end of this over. 65.3 gone, so there's still 14 before India can get their hands on a new ball. That suggests to me that we're going to see Ashwin and or Jadeja quite soon, though, because these quicks, even though they've got lunch coming up, will probably need a little bit of a break. Well, that's the kind of shot that I've expected New Zealand to play, and they haven't played for a while because it was going down the leg side, and Nicholls just let the ball hit the inside portion of the bat. It went down to long leg for a single. If you're wondering how I got to 30 runs or so being left on the field in the first hour of the day's play, it was because that shot was not played at all. But it's a strike rotating single.
Yeah, I don't know about 30. I'd say maybe 10. But you are making a point that is relevant to New Zealand's position in the game.
There were, I think, I counted 11 balls on the graphic that we saw that were down the leg side. 4 or 5 of them could easily have gone for 4. As Shami's in again, and Williamson lets it go, and it goes through to Rishabh Pant, leaving it probably as much on length as line there, Williamson, knowing that the ball, if it's anything but pretty full, is going to go over the top of the stumps. It's through to Rishabh Pant. He's 4 balls off a... who was it who has a century of balls faced?
Dentry. Joe Denley.
Joe Denley. And there was an Australian opener, Ed Cowan. Ed Cowan was another who had a century when he faced 100 balls. Well, he needs 4 more, does Kane Williamson. He needs 85 more for a proper century. And he faces up to the last ball of Mohammad Shami's over, and it's a half volley outside off stump, but he lets it go through to the keeper. New Zealand have 128 for 3. They trail by 89. I'll be back this afternoon, and I'll leave you in the capable hands of other gorillas.
Thank you, Gary. As we edge into the last half an hour of this session, and it's been India's session. I mean, they probably didn't make New Zealand play as much as they would have liked to in the first half an hour or so. But since drinks and the change of ends for both Mohammad Shami and Jasprit Bumrah, it's been excellent. We've seen Ishant Sharma bowl well as well. Some of those missed out of scoring opportunities down the leg side were big in-swingers that seemed to catch the New Zealanders by surprise. New Zealand 128 for 3, trailing by 89. Henry Nicholls, who's on 6, having cut Mohammad Shami over backward point for 4. Kane Williamson 15 off 97, having been 12 off 24 at one point. So he scored 3 off 73 deliveries since the end of the last actual day of play. Nakul Mpande taking you through to lunch and joined by Tony Bishop and not Fred Titmus, as Jasprit Bumrah has the old ball, which is doing, if anything, more than the new ball did, as he's in over the wicket to Henry Nicholls. A little bit of swing into the left-hander, blocked up to mid-on. There is no run. It's hard to say, Tony, that India hadn't earned that wicket.
Yes, it is. A lot of what I've seen was bowling onto leg stump, particularly to Ross Taylor. I wasn't sure that was necessarily the best approach, so I don't have memories of too many completely boxing the batsmen and beating them. So if you just mean by stoic perseverance, yes.
3 steps on the gully and a short leg as Bumrah is in. Gets this one to rise from back of a length, a half appeal as a ball that pitched outside leg and was going over the top of the stumps. There is no run. We certainly saw Shami beat the edge a number of times with some very good deliveries and some very tight bowling. I think with those ones, certainly this is the way I read it, is that India were trying to bowl very straight at Ross Taylor and trying to get the ball to swing into him, probably a little bit, in some cases, a bit too straight. It's been a real struggle for New Zealand.
Depends on your definition of what deserved the wickets means. Southee deserved the wicket.
I said
beat the bat every single time in about 2 overs.
I didn't say deserved, I say earned.
Oh, earned. Yeah, maybe. Not convinced.
This is left alone by Nicholls as Bumrah goes across the left-hander. Includes the keeper. There is no run. I would not be surprised if we saw R. Ashwin for not just the token over before lunch, but more than that, the off-spinner to the left-handed Henry Nicholls, who is a little bit susceptible to off-spin. Ashwin has bowled well so far in this game. 12 overs, 1 for 20.
Off air, I've just been playing a game with Paul Grubby Howarth, the Guerrilla Cricket contributor, and I'll tell you about it after this ball. We can get the listeners involved.
There's 2 men back on the hook as well as the short leg. India covering all bases with the slips as well. In fact, the short leg's almost at short catching mid-wicket now as Bumrah is in, strikes Nicholls on the pads. No real attempt at an appeal because it pitched outside leg and was probably going on to miss off stump, but a good delivery from Bumrah, trapping Nicholls on the crease. No run.
Grubby and I are casting Guerrilla Cricket the movie, and we're trying to work out who would best play the various Guerrilla Cricket contributors. I've come up with Dickie Attenborough to play Tony. I think he's done well there, Tony. Could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
But maybe the listeners will give their own suggestions.
3 slips, backward point, mid off, mid on, short mid wicket, and 2 men back on the hook as this from Bumrah angles across Nicholls. He leaves through to the keeper. There is no run. Good carry.
He's still alive.
But does it matter?
Well, to play me in a film, ideally someone breathing would be helpful.
They reanimated. They CG reanimated Peter Cushing for a film.
It's not a deal breaker, Tony.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
They CG'd Oliver Reed into Gladiator.
They did.
Was he as wooden as the real one?
He was mostly pickled. As Bumrah comes in, last ball of the over. Nicholls plays it nicely, not really getting a huge stride forward, but blocking it firmly enough into the covers. A maiden from Bumrah, not a sort of easy maiden, but not a wildly threatening one either. Bumrah's not quite been at his best in this Test match. New Zealand 128 for 3, trailing by 89.
There's been some discussion on Twitter about the quality or otherwise of Pant's wicket keeping. The Shah of Blah says that Rod Marsh was initially called Old Iron Gloves because nothing stayed in them. Kieran Morey used to drop a few early on. Both went on to be excellent keepers, as did MSD, as pointed out. Warren asks, maybe time for Ashwin Jadeja for a little bowl before the new ball? Possibly. Sure, they will be at some point because the faster bowlers are going to need a rest. Muttley asks, are we needing to put Gary in a home? I'm not sure what that's about.
He is an institution, but he's not ready for one.
He forgot whether the oven was on or not. And Muttley's also sent us a picture of his lunch.
Shummy continuing. This one kicks a little bit low. Shummy's been getting the ball to rear from a length. That one kicks a tad low. Williamson blocks to mid-wicket. There is no run.
His lunch being fried bread, tinned all-day breakfast, whatever that may be, and a couple of pickled eggs washed down with a pit of cherry but I think he may mean a pint of cherry.
Tinned all-day breakfast.
Tinned all-day breakfast. It's a new one on me, I have to say.
Brave man.
Matt Falaise says, if this was Sibley, everyone would be having a go at him for being too negative. Some superb bowling this session. That's a fair point. I think people were saying much about Sibley in the last couple of test matches.
Shummy is in, that's down the leg side, and stopped by Rishabh Pant, not taken cleanly, because it went down the leg side and then swung back to the offside, as we have seen a few balls do today, but he got most of himself behind it. No run. Shummy just.
I'd like to see a breakdown of just how many balls have been heading down leg today, but it's feeling like a lot.
There have been a few, yeah, probably double figures. Some of them that have been big in-swingers that have started and gone down leg, some of them starting off going down leg. India have been trying to bowl straighter than they were earlier in the test match when there was a lot going past off stump. The ball is moving an awful lot out there as Shummy is in. It's a good delivery and very solidly played by Williamson, just waits for it and with minimum of fuss defends into the offside. There is no run. He brings up his cow and ton. Kane Williamson, 100 balls faced for 15 runs.
Evil Scooters is looking forward to the Tour de France, and there is enormous excitement in various quarters for Mark Cavendish becoming again a sprinter of consequence at Le Tour, which may mean something to a lot of people, but I'm not one of them. Surely Oliver Reed
always peddling those theories.
Surely Oliver Reed is the bear, asks Messi Jez, but Grubby insists that Richard Dreyfuss would have to play the bear.
Good delivery from Mohammed Shami, just threatening to move away from Williamson at the last minute. He covers up in defence, blocks back to the bowler. There is no run. Shami's just found a little way to Tony to just pitch the ball a little bit fuller, maybe a few inches or so, or maybe 6 inches.
Well, it's what got him that wicket. I think you can definitely say that, although it was very well taken by Shubman Gill.
Yeah,
but yeah, given the amount of movement, possibly India would be disappointed that they haven't winkled out at least one more wicket before the revised lunchtime.
Penultimate ball of the over, driven by Williamson. The first thing approaching an attacking shot pretty much all day from him, but straight to Shubman Gill at extra cover. There is no run. Oh, I think they'd be disappointed in the outcome, but not the process, if that makes any sense.
Yes, to you. No, it does. I understand what you're saying. A glorious drive from Williamson.
Yeah, it was sort of a forward defensive that got ideas above its station. It's one of those shots that you play in a net and everyone says shot 4 runs without remembering where the fielders are. Last ball of the over from Shami is a good one that moves away from Williamson, but he's able to play late and with soft hands, and it goes down off the outside edge to Gully come third. So for maiden from Shami, New Zealand 128 for 3, trailing by 89, being made to work for every single one of these runs.
Muttley clarifies that it's basically a tin of sausage and beans with some mushrooms added, which is fair enough. Catherine Tate as Annie Chave, says Messi Jez. Well, I'm not sure about that. Of course, if Stephen Finn were to make a cameo appearance, then oh damn, I've forgotten her name.
Anna Forsyth.
Who played?
Who talking?
Finn look like?
Tamsin Gregg.
Tamsin Gregg.
Who also looks like Chris Dealey.
Yeah, she gets a bat with her cricketing.
Stephen Graham for Gary.
I think
Stephen, well, for the certainly the voiceover. If it was an animated show, then certainly Stephen Graham.
Or Alexei Sale.
I reserve the rights not to read out the suggestions about who's going to play me. Let's put it that way before you all start reaching for your keyboards.
I suppose the other obvious casting choice for Gary is Alexei Sale.
Oh yes. Is he still working?
He pops up every now and again. Bumrah's coming round the wicket now to Nichols after being over the wicket in the previous over. It's a good delivery which rises from a length and off inside edge, rolls down into pad flap, which from where Nichols has to retrieve it. There is no run. He's trying this angle where from round the wicket to the left-hander where he can get the ball to straighten, challenge both edges.
Messi Jez suggests Stephen Fry as Gary Naylor. That's a bit left field.
I don't know if Stephen Fry can do the accent.
I think they're singers of similar quality. Farong has given us a weather update. He loves his weather, does Farong, and he's confident now of the rest of the day.
Well, I've got
excellent.
I've got the Met Office radar up in front of me, and yes, we seem to be dry for the rest of the Test match, as this is semi-left by Henry Nichols. Middles a leave to second slip on the bounce. There is no run. A little bit uncertain as to whether to play from this angle.
The first suggestion as who's to play me is in, and I'm quite happy with it actually. Jack Nicholson. I'd take that. I was expecting far less kind, but I don't think Mog's awake actually. And I've probably blocked all the others. So yeah, do keep coming in if you think anyone ought to be playing one of us in Guerrilla Cricket the movie. It won't be that good a movie. There'll be a lot of wibbling in the middle of it.
Third ball of the over from Bumrah, tight to off stump. It's been better to Nichols than he was earlier this morning to Taylor. As Nichols blocks into the onside, there is no run. Bumrah over the course of his career has it's a no ball. It's his second of the day, his third of the Test match.
Over the line! Huh? I'm sorry, Smokey. You were over the line. That's a foul.
Of course, in all Test matches, one-day internationals and T20 internationals, the third umpire does the front foot no ball calling now, so none of them get missed. Decent delivery from Bumrah, solidly played enough by Nichols. There is no run to the offside.
Messi just clarifies that the Stephen Fry suggestion was because he knows everything and doesn't allow facts to get in the way. Gérard Depardieu as the bear, just to hear the bear complain rant about the choice. But yeah, that's not bad. Grubby says, I once tweeted Stephen Graham to ask him to play Phil Taylor in a darts film that I had not yet written. He didn't reply. Funny that.
It's not the usual way of casting a professional actor, as Bumrah comes in, just trying to get the ball to swing into Nichols. You can see the little flick of the wrist. It doesn't quite come in as much as he was hoping for, and it's left alone by Nichols through to the keeper. There is no run.
I think that there's one Hollywood actor, I think it's Bill Murray, who doesn't actually have an agent or anything like that.
He has a voicemail, doesn't he?
You have a voicemail, and you leave a message on his voicemail, and if he sounds interested in it, he'll get back to you.
Bill Murray is also known to randomly turn up at people's weddings and such like.
Yeah, and meet people in bars and take them home. Well, that's a slightly different aspect, but I mean, he leads an interesting life for a Hollywood superstar, which I suppose he is. Muttley wants the listeners to have actors too. He wants Rick Mail.
As Bumrah is in, this is clipped by Nichols a little bit aerially, but through the gap with square leg back. Nicely played in the end by Nichols, sort of controlled inside half of the bat. Takes a single, brings Williamson back onto strike, who has not now scored in 79 balls. New Zealand won 30 for 3.
Maybe Danny DeVito could play Gary. I'm thinking of him as the controller in Taxi. I'm going back about 40 years.
Some sort of forced perspective trick, given that Gary is about 1.5 foot taller than Danny DeVito.
Yeah, but the camera does all sorts of things. Good day and good morrow, cricket nerd, says Brian Barish. Are we talking about who would play us in movies? For me, it would be either Spike Jonze or Daniel Vittori. I'm not sure you've quite got the gist of it. But
Daniel Vittori, that famous actor.
Well, maybe he is in New Zealand. I can't think of any other.
3 steps in the goalie. They've left square leg open if Williamson wants to have a flick, and he does want to have a flick because that's a leg stump half volley. He's flicked it away nicely, even with the big playing area, even with the slow outfield. That is going to be a boundary. Saw to see what Bumrah was trying to do, but it didn't really swing, and Williamson puts it away nicely. His first scoring shot in 70 odd deliveries. His first boundary of the day.
1 2 4 4 2 1. My name is Lakhan. My name is Lakhan.
End of the over. New Zealand 132 for 3.
Messenger says Martin Sheen as Hendo, which is certainly better than Grubby's suggestion, which was Joe Pesci. I couldn't see that at all.
Martin Sheen's got the right hair for Hendo, yeah.
Well, they do all sorts of things with prosthetics as well. Patrick Kidd says, an innings like this always reminds me of a line from one of the rare cricket match reports that P.G. Woodhouse wrote. Trevor Bailey awoke from an apparent coma to strike a boundary.
He was a big cricket fan, P.G. Woodhouse.
Indeed, and Jeeves was named after a Warwickshire player.
There's his character
pre the First World War, and I think was killed in the First World War.
There's his character Mike in the Smith stories, whose major character trait is having been a very good university cricketer, and he also wrote a poem about dropping a catch called Mist. Have a change, another change. It's at the pavilion end. It's been all seam this morning, which you can understand with the ball moving. Ishant Sharma has come back into the attack, replacing Mohammed Shami, bowling round the wicket to Henry Nicholls. He does bowl very well to left-handers, does Ishant. This is a regulation leave outside off stump off the bowling of this tall fellow.
Ishant Sharma's gonna get you, gonna look you right in the face. Better get yourself together, darling. Learn how to play pace. How in the world you gonna see netting against trundlers like me? Who in the hell do you think you are? A superstar? Well, right you are.
Sharp 1 for 26 of his 18 overs prior to this. This one just rises from a length, and Nicholls defends uncertainly into the backward point region, and there is no run. It's often the case, Tony, that you'll be very decisive about which bowlers bowl from which ends, but Virat Kohli's not been afraid to. I think all three of the seamers have bowled from both ends at some point in this innings.
Yep.
Well, thanks for that.
Go along with that.
Nothing to add.
No, I don't have anything to add to that.
They are going to need to be rested, surely, at some point. I know they aren't bowling that many overs per hour, but there's a limit to how long they can keep it up.
There's 10 overs to the new ball after this, edged and caught at second slip. It's a good catch, diving across first slip. That is exactly what you want from the right arm seamer to the left-hander round the wicket. Ishant Sharma's been making a career of that for the last few years. Just a push from Henry Nicholls, a little bit ahead of his body, and a good catch to his right by second slip. Henry Nicholls goes for 7. New Zealand lose another wicket. India starting to make the breakthroughs that they wanted. Is Rohit Sharma, I think. In fact, no, it's Virat Kohli going across Rohit Sharma at second slip to take a very neat catch. Sorry, no, I got that right. First time it is Rohit Sharma, and should have trusted myself. Henry Nicholls gone for 7 off 23. New Zealand 134 for 4. Neatly taken at second. The catching has been very good from both teams in this test match.
It was excellent. The interesting thing to me, again, you were talking about bowling straighter. That one deliberately pushed across the left-hander, and it did precisely what it was designed to do. Just drew him into a slightly loose drive, and two men could have caught it. I mean, it actually kind of went between second and third slip, didn't it? So it was a fairly thickish egg. Yeah, first and second, but they could easily have left it for one another. Rohit it was who was decisive, but to me the interesting thing was the way they pushed it across the left-hander, really trying to force exactly that shot.
And sort of the classic one is sort of it angles in from round the wicket and then just moves away at the last minute. I mean, it's basically the Stuart Broad to David Warner type dismissal.
I mean, it was a good catch by somebody with a beard. They always used to say in the slip cordon, if you think you can go for it, you go for it. You don't start assuming that somebody else is going to take it. And second slip is always closer than the first slip. So, not that there was an issue with that carrying, because it really came through at above chest height, I would have thought. So, game back on.
In his last test match, the New Zealand wicketkeeper fends at a delivery from Ishant as he goes back over the wicket, and probably a leg by down past past Rishabh Pant. Yeah, Chitheshwar Pujara was kind of in position for it at first slip, but it was always Rohit's catch. He moved very decisively to his right and took it very neatly. He's a very good slip fielder, Rohit Sharma. I don't think we've seen a drop catch in this Test match.
Southey put one down in the slips.
Oh, that's right.
Or
yes.
gully. He sort of went at it with hands neither up nor down.
Yes, that's right. He got to him too quickly, didn't it? Or he got his hands into an awkward position. But we've seen some very good catches. Anyway, I should jingle up the New Zealand wicketkeeper in his last Test match.
Look at him score the runs like he hardly tries. It's Watling who can score with ease. Yes, it's true. Before he
leg slip in place for Kane Williamson. Gary will be happy. This one beats him on the outside edge and keeps a little bit low. Williamson sort of playing inside the line. But this is the dam. People were talking about something has got to give. The dam is certainly in the process of bursting.
Well, you say that, but 2 wickets have fallen in 1 hour and 50 minutes, and considering what the ball was doing, I'm not sure New Zealand would consider that a terrible session, even though the wickets they've lost have been late in the session. It is difficult batting conditions against the moving ball.
3 slips, first, second, fourth, and a leg slip with the bounce and movement into the right-hander that Ishant is getting. This one doesn't bounce that much, and it's just blocked into the onside. A successful over for Ishant Sharma. He too taking a wicket in his first over of a new spell. New Zealand 135 for 4.
Brian Barry says, I have a Woodhouse book sitting at home waiting for me to begin reading. It was a blind date with a book promo from a bookstore in Maine. It was wrapped in brown paper with bullet points written on it, so you sort of knew what you were getting yourself into. I think Woodhouse is one of the great writers in the English language in history. So I would suggest certainly reading that.
A genius. Look at the opening line of, I think it's called The Luck of the Bodkins, and if you don't laugh, there's something wrong with you.
Well, he gets sort of 3 belly laughs a page. I mean, it's almost extraordinary what he does with language. Even when his plots are not, to be fair, all that intricate and all that interesting, but they don't need to be because he's just an absolute brilliant stylist. David Latimer says, I'll continue after this ball.
As Shami continues this one. In fact, it's another change of bowling as Bumrah comes out of the attack and Shami comes into the attack. Watling leaves this swinging delivery outside off stump. Let's just jingle up Mohammed Shami. I would be amazed if we don't see Ashwin or Jadeja fairly soon.
He's coming down fast and moving it too. Tell me the answer. He may be a bowler, but he's often injured. Look out.
1 for 31 off his 17 overs. Bowled him! Made that 2 for 31 off 17.2 overs. A cracker from Mohammed Shami. Threatening to come in, then seaming away to take the top of off stump. BJ Watling in his penultimate Test innings is bowled for 1. New Zealand 135 4-5, still trailing by 82 runs. India have been all over New Zealand since drinks.
Yep.
Oh, middle stump, in fact. Watling got his lines completely wrong there.
Yeah, kept a little bit low, perhaps, but it was certainly a fantastic ball, and not going to be a dream end to the career of BJ Watling, I fear, because he was completely undone by that delivery. We're going to see a bit of Colin CDG, aren't we?
Well, it was strange. I'm not sure the ball did all that much. He just seemed to play round a straightish one, which is an odd way for a Test batsman to get out, especially one as accomplished as BJ Watling.
Yeah, caught on the crease, maybe just straightened a little bit. It just wasn't really committed to any sort of defensive stroke. I mean, Shami does, it's a little bit quicker. It's the kind of thing that can happen early in innings. Your feet aren't quite moving, but he got beaten on the. It looked like he got beaten on the outside edge and bowled middle and off stump. So it was a strange looking dismissal.
Having said that, two wickets, New Zealand would have thought that it was still their session. Now 3 with 5 minutes to go, possibly getting a 4th. It's looking like India's session now. It's amazing how quickly the game can change. David Latimer says, do you think, guys, maybe first innings points might make a one-off Test final better, eliminating the draw option? I don't, actually, because first innings points tend to make teams play for those first innings points. Admittedly, not that many tests are drawn. Certainly ones where the weather isn't involved. So you wouldn't think it would come into. Well, I'll break off now as Grandon's going to face his first delivery.
Is from Mohammed Shami. It's a good delivery, tight to off stump, and Colin, powered by the mullet, de Grandon, leans forward and blocks into the onside. This man with his wonderful mullet and wonderful jingle.
I turned to look, but I was gone. I cannot see my own reflection now. My body's gone, my face is gone. I have become Colin de Grandon.
An aggressive player by nature, Colin de Grandon scores at nearly 5 runs and over in certainly well over 4.5 runs and over in Test cricket. He blocks this to mid-on, and there is no run. And I'm not saying that de Grandon should go crazy, but this is the sort of Test match where a quick 40 could be extremely valuable.
Well, yeah, but so could a slow 40. We've still got a lot of overs left in this game. I think people might be writing it off a little bit too early.
But look, with the quality of the bowling attacks and 180 overs or plus remaining, that's a poor delivery down the leg side, which de Grandon gets too far outside of, misses, taken by punt down the leg side. There isn't any rain expected for the rest of today and tomorrow. Scoring's been hard all day, and we've seen wickets fall in clusters.
So there were 91 due to be bowled today. Do we know how many have been bowled?
What did we start on? We started with 49 overs, so we've had 22 at the end of this.
22, so 69 possibly left in the day, although we probably won't get to see all of those.
3 slips in the gully away. De Grandon defends solidly, more solidly than Watling managed. A wicket maiden for Mohammed Shami. India have been very, very good in this last 20 minutes or so. New Zealand 135 for 5, still trailing by 82 runs.
And I assume 96 tomorrow, so still the chance of 150 plus overs in this game when wickets have fallen regularly.
Less a couple for change of innings here and there, but it's a lot of cricket.
A lot of cricket left to be played, and if the weather stays off, I think we could be looking at a low-scoring classic come 5:30 tomorrow afternoon. Well, stay here with us because we will bring you every ball of it.
I think Williamson, no reason to change his game plan right now. He's dug himself in. He's not, what are we, 2-3 minutes short of lunch. He's not going to suddenly change that approach for now. And I very much doubt we're going to see de Grandon go flashing the bat with his lunch around the corner.
Deep batting lineup as well.
Last over before lunch, Williamson 19 off 107 balls now as he defends this from the stumps into the offside. There is no run. Look, I mean, there are very few points in Test cricket where you wouldn't want to be taking a few more singles. But India have bowled well. Not brilliantly, but well this morning. Given the conditions, they might have expected to start making breakthroughs earlier, but I don't think, Tony and Fred, that India could be too unhappy with their work this morning.
Well, the last 20 minutes, yes, but I think had they not taken a wicket in this, they would have been very demoralised.
The leg slip's still in place for Williamson, who leaves alone through to the keeper. There is no run. Yes, potentially they would, but the point is that they have taken 3 wickets.
Yeah,
they've taken 30. Well, yeah, they've taken 33 for 3. So that's where you would look at, to a certain extent, the fact that New Zealand have been slow and steady. Had it been 33 for 1, great, but 33 for 3 doesn't look quite so good.
No,
so on that basis, you would definitely call this as India's morning.
It's been like a combination of India have bowled well and there haven't been many scoring opportunities, and New Zealand have been deliberately trying to be very solid. There's a lot of catching fielders on the onside. Now, there's a leg slip, a short leg, almost a shortish catching mid-wicket as well, and Nishant is in, and this is clipped defensively by Williamson to that man, sort of like catching square leg, really. There is no run. Very definite plans to bowl straight at the Williamson and Taylor that we've seen today. It worked very well in India and Australia, bowling to Smith and Labuschagne, bowling very straight. As Mohammad Shami appears to have just got out of the shower. He's wrapped a bath towel, a bath sheet around his midriff, trying to dry himself off.
Is that legal?
While still fully clothed. It's very bizarre.
What if it hits that? Is that 5 runs?
Well, very strange. I think I've seen that before. Ishant in. Williamson falls over himself as he tries to flick to leg. It was a big in-swing. It was going down leg side, so no real LBW appeal, but definite false stroke from Williamson. Another dot ball.
The other point is, looking forward, if, say, the 2 first innings are very close to each other and we have, in essence, a 1 innings game, and the scoring rate is quite low, firstly, that can be quite exciting in itself, but you do tend possibly to get into a situation where, if the scoring rate remains low, that India may have to think about whether to declare or not, or whether to be bowled out. They won't want to declare and give New Zealand a sniff. But I'm talking way ahead now, so nothing will come.
Penultimate ball of the session, edged again. Williamson's soft hands getting him out of trouble. Bounces well short of Cheteshwar Pujara at first slip, and there is no run. I don't think this is not a test match where it will take you. I don't think that you have to worry all that much about time to take wickets. There's plenty of opportunity to take wickets. Bowling normally, we've seen that the ball is almost moving more as it's got older than it did with the new ball. And the pitch is, if the sun comes out, it might get a little bit easier to bat, but not very much.
And 2 very, very skillful bowling attacks.
Absolutely. Last ball of what's been another engrossing session of this Men's World Test Championship final is defended stoutly by Williamson into the onside. He has only managed to score 7 runs this morning. In fact, he scored 7 runs in his last 88 deliveries. Colin de Grandhomme is on naught, and Ishant Sharma and Mohammad Shami made the breakthroughs after the drinks break. We saw Ross Taylor pushing at a Mohammad Shami delivery, which was very nicely caught by Shubman Gill at short extra cover for 11. Henry Nichols nicking off Ishant Sharma to second slip, where Rohit Sharma took a good catch in front of first for 7. And BJ Watling bowled by a good ball that he didn't play particularly well from Mohammad Shami for 1. New Zealand lunch uneasily at 135 for 5, trailing by still by 82 runs. They've only added 34 runs in 23 overs for the loss of 3 wickets. When we have had cricket in this test match, it has been very, very entertaining.
Yeah, it certainly has. It remains delightfully poised. Let's just cross everything collectively wherever you're listening to us, and hope we can see this through to tomorrow night with things continually with cricket to watch and less chitter chat to undertake.
Just run through the last few tweets before lunch. Merchant Engineer, this is dated a bit, he says, lost only 2 but haven't scored many either, have they? Well, now they've lost 3 and haven't scored many. Gary Naylor says, performing Flea, mainly letters by P.G. Woodhouse, is a brilliant example of his style unencumbered by strained plotting. By the way, he says, never missing the opportunity to get a needle in. This is why New Zealand needed to play more positively earlier. Brian Barry says, I think the best way to try and ensure a winner while dealing with the weather would be to require a certain number of overs played, equivalent to 5 days, but over how much time is needed. 450 overs. I think Gary made that point earlier. Craig Tranter says, I'll say it before and I'll say it again, which is always a good way to start a tweet, especially if you're from Yorkshire. I don't know if you are. If there is another World Test Championship final in Hampshire, stage it at good old Maze Bounty in Basingstoke instead. Hashtag proper result wicket come rain or shine.
It would be hard pressed to argue that this isn't a result wicket.
It is, and you both said that it's been gripping Test cricket so far, and that's because the bowlers are slightly on top. There is something about a game where every ball could take a wicket, which makes it much, much more gripping than when the batsmen are on top. And it is gripping, so we'll be back after lunch, or some of us will be. And until then, Knuckle, what are we having?
We're going back to what we've been playing throughout this World Test Championship final, going back to a low-scoring thriller in its way from the 2019 World Cup. England versus Pakistan at Trent Bridge, a game that went rather differently to how most people expected it to go. See you in about half an hour.
I had 4-6, ... 4, 3 boundaries and 3 dot balls, which if you were being extremely picky from an over which went for 14 from the batting side, you'd say, well, you know, another couple of singles in there, and that's really, really good play.
Yeah, no, that's still good, and 14 off an over.
It is good.